Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 41 The Arrival of Liosh Assad. Thor was extremely looking forward to Liosh Assad, and in this kind of expectation, time passed quickly. In a blink of an eye, this month passed the end, and the new January arrived. When the new January arrived, a caravan also appeared on the road from Lucerne City to Eagle Ridge. Of course, there was no road here. But after Thor led his men to walk a few times, a road was trampled out. Liosh Assad was moving slowly along this road. At this moment, he did not have many people, only 40 or 50 people, and there were only a dozen knights, but they were loaded with carriages. The ruts of the carriages were deeply pressed down, and it was obvious that they were loaded with a lot of heavy goods. At the front of the team, Liosh Assad rode a snow-white horse. "My lord, there is still one day, which should be enough to reach Eagle Ridge," Ram said respectfully. "Got it. Speed up and try to reach Eagle Ridge at noon tomorrow. I believe my friends will give us the best hospitality." Liosh Assad spoke with a smile. But after the words fell, there was a worry and uneasiness in the depths of his eyes. This was not only about his own situation, but also because of the uneasiness about Eagle territory. That day, because that figure imagined a better future with him, his heart was moved and he sold the fierce fire oil to the heir of Dressrosa. But as time went by, for the content of the words of the member of Dressrosa, he still had doubts. The Dressrosa family is weaker than their Assad family. Will they really give such great support to a heir? That is a great knight, dozens of official knights. Even for a count, such power is not small. At least in his cognition, his second brother also chose to be a pioneer knight, and was valued by his father, but the resources he finally got were only more than 20 official knights and more than 100 apprentice knights. There were more gold coins, but only 10,000 gold coins. Terdrerosa's words made him a little suspicious. So after struggling for a while, Liosh decided to come and take a look. On the one hand, he wanted to make a final confirmation, and on the other hand, he wanted to see what Terdrerosa's territory was like and whether it could really help him realize his idea. If not, he had to consider other ways. Maybe, I can try other territories. But my strength is still too weak, and I don't have too many items that can impress those lords, so it's still a bit risky to do this. Liosh muttered to himself, and couldn't help but fall into deep thought. And time passed quickly. In a blink of an eye, a day passed quickly. When the sun rose at noon, Liosh and his party finally saw the main river valley ahead, as well as the farmlands and buildings. But when he saw the Eagle Ridge, Liosh couldn't help but widen his eyes instantly, and even subconsciously wiped his eyes. Because the territory that appeared in front of him at this moment was completely beyond his expectations. It was not as messy and dilapidated or wild as imagined, but neat and unified. Wheat fields were dotted in the front view, and a huge castle stood in the center in the distance, majestic, upright, and solemn. It was incompatible with the appearance of the territory of the new lord. If Liosh hadn't been sure that this was in the Eagle Ridge, Liosh would even doubt whether he had come to the territory of a certain baron. My god, he actually built this place like this. Castle, there is even a castle. Liosh spoke with disbelief, and his heart was full of shock at this moment. Liosh naturally had some knowledge of Terdrerosa. He knew that Thor had been a pioneer knight for less than 4 months. But the scene of the territory at this moment, let alone 4 months, even ordinary pioneering lords might not be able to achieve such results in 2 or 3 years. In shock, a touch of surprise inevitably spread to his face. At this moment, in the distance, several knights rode quickly. When he saw the people coming, Liosh's smile became brighter. The figure also dismounted quickly. And several figures in the distance arrived soon. They also dismounted quickly. Thor quickly stepped forward. He hugged Liosh. "Welcome, my friend." A gentle voice sounded, with a sincere smile. "I look forward to meeting you, my friend. To be honest, my friend, you really surprised me. It's only been 4 months, and your territory has even reached such a scale." Liosh said with emotion. "It is the protection of the goddess of life that makes everything go smoothly for me. Let's go. I have prepared a sumptuous dinner for you. My friend, you must be hungry." Thor nodded with a smile and then invited Liosh. "It's my honor." Liosh nodded with a smile. Thor then led Liosh and his party into the territory. After entering the territory, Liosh was undoubtedly even more shocked. The entire territory was better than he had imagined, with clean and spacious roads and voices full of smiles. Liosh did not see the numbness, despair, and godlessness of other territories in those people. He only saw hope, longing, and admiration for Terdresosa. This was incredible. He knew that these people were slaves a few months ago. When did slaves become so energetic? This time, his gaze towards Thor changed again. And when he walked near the castle, there was a touch of shock in his eyes again. Knights passed by one. Many of them were formal knights. Even though Thor told him that he had more than 40 formal knights that day, he could not help but be shocked when he saw many formal knights. This was a formal knight. At its current scale, Eagle Ridge is truly not inferior to any barren territory. In some cases, it is even better developed than some barren territories. This is simply unimaginable. In shock, the smile became brighter. Because the better Eagle Ridge develops, the better it will be for him. As for the previous uneasiness, tension, and uneasiness, they have completely disappeared at this moment. Instead, there is more expectation. An expectation for the future. There is no way. With the current scale of Eagle Ridge, he is almost certain that Thor will definitely become a baron, and relying on a baron's territory, his business can really develop. Chapter 42 Construction of Trade Routes. Inside the castle. A grand banquet was held. Dishes of food were brought to the table. And these foods undoubtedly shocked Liosh again. Because these foods not only contained the meat of pig beasts, but also the meat of various first and second level monsters, which were extremely valuable. Even when eating these meats, Liosh felt like he was eating gold coins, which was extremely painful. He even wanted to speak several times, but he was forced to hold back. But when the banquet was over, Liosh couldn't help but speak. My friend, thank you for your hospitality. It's really an honor. But forgive me for being presumptuous. If these foods are sold today, they can be sold for 1 or 2 gold coins. For Eagle Ridge, gold coins are the most important. Liosh spoke seriously. No, my friend. Gold coins are indeed important, but entertaining friends is more important, isn't it? Besides, my friend, I think there are things that are more important and more suitable for you. Thor looked at Liosh's expression and listened to his words. He couldn't help but smile in his heart. It was obvious that the effect was outstanding. So he didn't cover it up anymore, but chuckled and spoke again. More important. Hearing Thor's words, Liosh was about to speak again subconsciously, but at this moment his eyes widened again, and his breathing became a little heavy. Ryan, bring the things up. Looking at Liosh's heavy breathing, Thor immediately spoke to Ryan next to him. Yes. Ryan nodded quickly. Soon his figure trotted away. A moment later, a knight brought wooden boxes one by one. What is this? Liosh looked at the wooden boxes brought over, with a puzzled expression. Open it and show it to my friend. Thor gestured. Soon, one knight after another opened the wooden box. Then a patch of black appeared in front of everyone. Liosh was stunned at first, and then his figure walked forward involuntarily. This is it. He subconsciously fumbled for a while, and then his eyes widened again, and his sight instantly looked at Thor. The excellent black iron armor forged by the hands of the goblins is worth more than 15 silver coins even in the Frostmoon province. In this northern province, I think even if it is 40 silver coins, or even 50 silver coins, there may be people who need it. My friend, how about this? Thor said with a smile, and what he said almost made Liosh's heart stop. My friend, you are not kidding. Liosh suppressed the trembling in his heart, glanced at the black iron armor around him, and spoke with disbelief. Are you kidding me? No, this is not a joke. Here are 100 sets of fine black iron armor that can be handed over to you. In addition, I have a set of silver armor here. Thor shook his head and gestured. As he gestured, Ryan quickly opened the last wooden box. When the silver appeared, Liosh's body was a little unstable. If the fine black iron armor was enough to make him excited, then the appearance of the silver armor almost made his mind go blank. Silver armor. This is real magic equipment, and it is also a strategic material. It will only appear in the auction of Lucerne City in the northern province. At this moment, it actually appeared in front of him, and Thor's words actually said that he was ready to hand it over to him. At this moment, his mind was really blank. With his eyes, he could see at a glance that those were the most sophisticated armors. Whether it was black iron armor or silver armor, it was the same. Even if the Assad family wanted to obtain this level, it was not so easy, let alone transporting it to the northern province. That's almost impossible. How about it, my friend? I once promised you that I could help you build your trade route. Now is the time for me to fulfill my promise. I believe that with those lords are very happy to buy items from you. Thor ignored the blank head in shock, and the voice with a smile sounded again. Thor's words let Lyosh's blank head gradually recover. The shock in his eyes continued, but at this moment he quickly calmed down. He took a deep breath, looked at Thor, and spoke with a very serious tone. To be honest, this is too shocking. I even feel like I'm dreaming. Allow me to confirm again, can these really be handed over to me? The words were apprehensive, and his expression was unprecedentedly nervous. This is of course true. However, you need to offer a reasonable price to take them away. Thor said with a smile. The words of confirmation again made Lyosh excited at this moment. After thinking for a moment, his words rang. Of course. For the black iron armor, I can offer 30 silver coins, no, 50 silver coins. As for the silver armor, how about 500 gold coins? He spoke anxiously, and his face was flushed. As Thor said, once he gets these things, he will definitely be able to open up the trade route of the northern province, and the value is simply not comparable to gold coins. He will take it even if it is at a premium. But in his excitement, Thor shook his head. Seeing Thor shaking his head, Lyosh gritted his teeth and prepared to make another offer. But Thor waved his hand to stop him. My friend, you are too generous. But this price is too high. I won't let my friend suffer. How about this, black iron armor, 30 silver coins a pair, I can sell you 100 pairs, as for silver armor, the price of Habsburg Chamber of Commerce is 300 gold coins, so let's set it at 300 gold coins. A chuckle sounded. What was said made Lyosh stunned for a moment. He even felt that he had heard it wrong. Sir Thor, you. He spoke subconsciously, but Lyosh didn't know what to say for a while. We are friends, how can we let friends suffer? This price is just right, isn't it? Thor smiled and shook his head, he was not stupid. It was for long-term business. In large iron mines, not to mention silver armor, at least black iron armor will be produced continuously. At this moment, it is meaningless to get all the wool. It is better to make a steady profit. 30 silver coins for a set of black iron armor, Lyosh makes money, and he also makes a lot of money. This is enough. You can even use Lyosh to form a complete trade route. When the time comes, that will be the time for real big gains. Now is just the beginning, there is no need to rush. Thank you so much. Indeed, we are friends. Lyosh finally reacted at this moment, and spoke with excitement, looking at Thor with eyes full of gratitude. Chapter 43, Trade Route Construction 2. Lyosh Assad was undoubtedly excited. Everything he had seen at Eagle Ridge was beyond his expectation. His original uneasiness, nervousness, and hesitation, at this moment, completely turned into expectation and infinite longing in Thor's description. 100 sets of fine black iron armor, plus 1 set of fine silver armor, were not too many, or even too few. At most, they could only satisfy 1 or 2 nobles. But the problem was that having and not having were 2 different things. Having meant that he could open the door to most of the nobles in the entire northern province. As long as he could open the door to the noble lords, the subsequent trade would become smoother. The only problem was that he was not strong enough now. But there were always ways to deal with these. At worst, he would go to the family and cry again. You are really too generous. I don't know how to describe my current mood. Lyosh Assad sighed and spoke. At this moment, his mood was complicated, a feeling he had never thought of. We are friends, aren't we? There is one more thing, my friend, maybe you may not know yet. Not to mention silver armor, black iron armor, I can trade with you every month. Thor smiled and shook his head, and then what he said made Lyosh Assad's body tremble again. Every month. Lyosh widened his eyes and stuttered. At this moment, he had already imagined the next business road. But he didn't expect that the surprise hadn't stopped yet. Of course. I said, my father is very generous, he gave some black iron armor and silver armor, naturally it's not a problem. Thor chuckled again and nodded. Oh, my friend, your father is indeed generous. Generosity makes me a little jealous. What do you need me to do? I, Lyosh Assad, am willing to serve my friend. Lyosh, heart was shaken again, and finally he spoke with a complicated tone. Envy. At this moment, he could only envy. Besides, he really didn't know what language to use to express it. My friend, you misunderstood. This is just a deal. However, I do have a proposal. I wonder if my friend, are you interested? Thor smiled and shook his head, then spoke with a slight hesitation. You say. Lyosh spoke quickly. That's right, my friend, you have also seen that my territory has begun to be built, but the construction of the territory requires a lot of materials and resources. Those damn vampires of the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce will definitely make a lot of money, which is simply intolerable to me. Lyosh, my friend, your Assad family is a business family. I think we can completely form our own trade route in the North Province. I can provide you with knights, strength, and materials, and my friend, you can build the trade route of the entire North Province. The entire North Province is very large. If you can communicate with other lords, I believe they will also be willing. After all, the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce will not leave Lucerne City to these wild territories. Thor spoke slowly and also stated his plan. The Northland province is very large, almost the size of 10 Frost Moon provinces. There are more than 30 nobles with titles, and the number of pioneering lords is countless. Such a large province has unimaginable resources and materials. If they can open up trade routes to each other, the development of his entire Eagle Ridge will enter a high-speed stage again. In addition, Thor can also use the expansion of the trade route to test the scope of daily intelligence. Will it change with his changes? Of course, other people don't know these people. Lyosh, eyes lit up when he heard Thor's words. My friend, did I hear it wrong? Are you willing to help me build a trade route? Lyosh spoke with disbelief. Of course, you are my friend, aren't you? And the trade route is also about my territory. Let's put it this way. If you are willing, we can form a chamber of commerce of our own. I can provide materials and personnel, and you can be responsible for the operation of the Chamber of Commerce. Thor nodded with a smile, then pondered for a moment, and once again said something that made Lyosh heart beat. Chamber of Commerce. Lyosh asked with some excitement. Yes, Chamber of Commerce, we can each occupy 50%. Thor nodded with a smile, and affirmed the words again. My friend, I have to say, this is too tempting. Let's put it this way. We are friends, and I won't let my friends suffer. I only need 30%, but my friend, you need to provide enough knights as the security force of the Chamber of Commerce. Lyosh took a deep breath, then suppressed the ups and downs in his heart, looked at Thor and spoke seriously. Security. Of course, 10 official knights, 30 apprentice knights, and 100 reserve knights is your initial strength. If the Chamber of Commerce expands, I can increase the number of people again. Thor pondered for a moment and then nodded, and also gave his value. At this moment, some of the knights in his territory have been transferred to the iron mine, but there are still many knights in Eagle Ridge. It can be used right now. As his guardian knight, he does not need to worry about these people being lured away by Lyosh, but can let him keep an eye on Lyosh. Of course. That's enough. My friend, your power is already stronger than most pioneering lords. Lyosh couldn't help but sigh. His words were not flattery. Most pioneering knights probably only have one formal knight. Those who can have 2 or 3 formal knights are basically considered to be relatively powerful pioneering lords, and those who can mobilize more than 10 formal knights are mostly lords who have obtained the title. But at this moment, Thor took out 10 formal knights in one breath and gave them to him. This hand, thinking about the situation when he came out, Lyosh felt speechless. Of course, speechless. Soon, he was still covered by longing. After all, such power will soon belong to him. With this power, as well as black iron armor and silver armor, he can completely open up a market in the northern province. The Chamber of Commerce will also have the possibility of being truly established. As long as he can make a difference in the northern province, or even achieve considerable success, he will certainly be valued by the Assad family. Chapter 44 New Information. One day later, Lyosh left excitedly. Before leaving, he left behind all the things he brought, including a large amount of food and supplies. Obviously, these were all prepared for Eagle Ridge. When he left, he took 100 black iron armors, a set of silver armor, and more than 100 knights. He started his journey to open up the trade route. Thor also sent the most sincere blessings to this person. After all, whether the trade route can be successfully opened is also crucial to the subsequent construction of his Eagle Ridge. This is especially true for the future. Whether Eagle Ridge can continue to develop rapidly in the future is extremely important. After sending Liosh Assad away, Thor began to plan the construction of his territory while waiting for the auction in Lucerne City to start. Cooperating with the daily intelligence system, the development of the entire Eagle Ridge has not stagnated at all. And time soon passed another month. This month, good news soon came from Liosh. The construction of the trade route was smoother than expected. In less than a month, he had opened up 3 Pioneer Knight territories. It is expected that this year, he will be able to complete the trade routes of more than 30 Pioneer Lords, and even if he is lucky, he can open up several Noble Lords. And Eagle Ridge. In this month, the infrastructure has been completely completed. If it was very much like a small town before, then Eagle Ridge is already a small town at this moment. And it has doubled compared to before. The land area is not inferior to some barren territories. Of course, what surprised Thor even more was Ryan's cultivation speed. With Neil Morton's teaching, Ryan's cultivation speed is almost rocket-like. At present, his cultivation is about to break through the formal Knight mid-stage. I believe that it will not take long for him, the first Guardian Knight, to break through to the formal Knight mid-stage. At the current speed, it is very likely to reach the peak of the formal Knight within a year and break through the Great Knight within 3 years. He will definitely be able to break through to the Earth Knight within 10 years, and he may be able to break through to the Sky Knight within 30 years at most. 30 years, a Sky Knight, such a result is exciting even if you think about it. Sky Knight, that is the most powerful person in the kingdom. A Sky Knight, not to mention other things, is definitely enough to raise his title to Marquis, and even has a certain probability of reaching the level of Duke. After all, the 3 dukes in the kingdom were able to get the Duke because a Sky Knight was born and made great contributions in the Kingdom War. With the Sky Knight, there is undoubtedly a foundation. Such a result is exciting even if you think about it. Of course he is excited, and Neil Morton is even more excited. After teaching Ryan, he found that Ryan's talent is even higher than he imagined. If he had only guessed that Ryan had a certain possibility of breaking through the Holy Knight, then at this moment he was almost 100% sure that Ryan would definitely break through the Holy Knight. Such a talent, even the geniuses of the Empire may not be so good. Holy Knight. That's the Holy Knight. Even though he was known as the most promising person in the Empire to break through the Holy Knight, he knew that he had a maximum probability of 10%, or even less. That was not the same as the Sky Knight. Even in the Empire, such existences were few and far between. Each of them was worthy of the highest courtesy of the Empire. Once a top genius like Ryan arrived in the Empire, it would undoubtedly cause an unimaginable sensation, and it would be unimaginable to obtain resources. Even for a moment, Neil Morton had the idea of forcibly taking Ryan away. But in the end, he held back. On the one hand, he was not that kind of person, and on the other hand, the situation in the Empire was not optimistic at the moment. It might not be a good thing for Ryan to step in rashly. Even he had better not step in first. In the end, he decided to stay. Of course, Thor didn't know this at the moment. He was not too worried about Neil Morton. After all, if there was a problem, the Daily Intelligence would definitely give a warning in advance. After a few months, there was no intelligence on Neil Morton, which meant that there would be no problem at all. In fact, it was true. The night passed gradually. The new day gradually came to an end in a bit of coolness. And the Daily Intelligence was also updated as scheduled at this moment. Daily Intelligence updated. 1. 500 miles north of your territory, a group of pig beasts will pass by, and its pig beast leader seems to be about to break through the 3rd level. 2. In the west of your territory, in the territory of Barren Wells, a serf accidentally discovered that the fern root and the fire spirit tree were grafted together, which increased the output value of the fire spirit tree. 3. 7 days later, there will be a group of special slaves for sale in the slave farm of Lucerne City. Among them, a boy named Alan has the talent to be close to all things. As a breeder, he can not only complete the cultivation, but also has a certain probability of advancing the species. Closing square bracket. 4. 7 days later, there will be a thunderstone for sale at the auction in Lucerne City. It is one of the main materials for making magic crystal cannons. 5. 7 days later, a group of unicorns will be foraging in the west of your territory. 6. Engel Dressrosa seems to have some troubles, which comes from the limitation of his own strength. Lines of text are presented, and new information appears. As expected, the information of the auction really appeared this time. And what surprised him greatly was that there was something in this auction that was attractive enough to him. The Thunder Stone, a magical stone from the Aegean Sea Thunder Prison, contains a strong thunder power. It is also one of the main materials for making magic crystal cannons, and it is also the most important material. With the Thunder Stone, you can basically start making magic crystal cannons. Not to mention there is a new surprise. The talent of affinity with all things. It can make species advance. This made him look at the group of unicorns. During this period of time, he had not asked anyone to capture the group of unicorns. The most important reason was that he had no breeder. Wild monsters cannot be raised without breeders. So he could only leave it alone. But at this moment, a young man with the most suitable talent for breeding appeared. This was undoubtedly a pillow for a sleepy man. That was a unicorn. The general unicorns were all first-order peak monsters, and their unicorn leader had reached the second-order peak. If the knight's warhorse was replaced with a unicorn, his current Eagle Ridge's strength would be greatly improved. Chapter 45 Heading to Lucerne City again. 3 months ago, the manager of the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce told Thor that there would be an auction in Lucerne City in 3 months, where extremely precious life potions would be sold. Thor was very interested in this. After all, an auction is a time when there are always opportunities to find bargains. This is especially true for Thor, who has daily intelligence. At this moment, when the daily intelligence is updated again, it actually proves this point. Both the boy named Alan and the Thunderstone made his heart beat. So in the next 2 days, Thor began to actively prepare for the auction. 2 days later, he personally took Ryan, Neil Morton, 5 official knights, and 30 apprentice knights to set off. Originally, after the mine and the division of the Chamber of Commerce, he had few apprentice knights, but he couldn't hold on. With his large expenditure, 10 more people in the preparatory knights condensed the seeds of life in the past few months and broke through to the level of apprentice knights. The number of his apprentice knights has also increased from more than 100 to more than 120 now. It is not a problem to mobilize 30 more people. Of course, in addition to personnel, Thor also brought some supplies to Lucerne City. For example, black iron armor and silver armor. After a few months, there are still a lot of gold coins. But whether it can support the purchase of Thunderstone, the boy named Alan, and a large number of living supplies is hard to say. He also needs to make some full preparations. As for Neil Morton, it is naturally this one who asked to follow. For having a super bodyguard, Thor will naturally not refuse. In a few months, if he was not sure before, now he can be sure that the other party must be a Sky Knight. In the entire northern province, nothing is safer than having a Sky Knight by your side. Even if there is a massive invasion of orcs at this moment, it can guarantee sufficient safety. This is a Sky Knight, a true existence standing in the clouds of the kingdom. There are only 5 Sky Knights in the entire Tulip Kingdom. Even if there are hidden ones, the number of Sky Knights cannot exceed 10. Each one is extremely important and is the most solid foundation of the kingdom. With this one, it is safer than anything else. Of course, there is no danger on the road from Eagle Ridge to Lucerne City. In order to ensure the normal holding of the auction, Lucerne City has sent a large number of knights to clean up the surroundings. Some rats in the dark have to settle down even if they are not completely wiped out. Thor and others did not carry any weight, even some supplies did not affect their actions. In just 4 days, everyone arrived at Lucerne City. Looking at the city in front, Neil Morton shook his head. Your lords here are really unqualified. The most important city in a province is actually built like this. He spoke with emotion. The experience of Eagle Ridge made him think that the Tulip Kingdom was similar. Now it seems that he was overthinking. This is only the case in Eagle Ridge. There is no such thing in other places. Thor smiled and did not respond to Neil Morton's words. You are kidding. He is not capable of evaluating Marquis Lehman. The figure rode his horse. Everyone slowly headed towards the city. Compared with the previous times he arrived, the entire Lucerne city was undoubtedly much more lively. There were crowds of people gathering at the gate of the city. There were all kinds of merchants, and pioneering lords with large groups of people like him. There were also nobles wearing medals. Not far away, Thor saw a mighty team of hundreds of knights. The high-flying flag let him know the other party's identity. Dalton. Whispering, Thor couldn't help but feel a little confused. It seemed that he didn't find the title of this family in his memory. But he was only confused for a moment, and he was soon suppressed. The Northland province is a wild area, which also means that there are unlimited opportunities here. There are not only various monsters, orcs, and resources. There are also relics from ancient civilizations. Compared with other provinces, the relics have been almost excavated, but there is nothing excavated in the northern province. Anyone can rise. In fact, more than half of the 56 barons conferred by the kingdom did not come from the original nobles, but rose from wandering knights. This, Dalton, is likely to be one of them, which is not too surprising. So many people. Ryan whispered, his eyes full of curiosity and looking around. Ha ha ha, Ryan, there are many more people in the Imperial Canaan city than here, and there are beautiful elves there. Neil Morden said with a chuckle. Teacher. Ryan looked at his teacher speechlessly. Ha ha ha, I'm just talking. Neil Morden was also a little embarrassed and spoke quickly. Let's go, the accommodation has been arranged, let's settle down first, the auction will start tomorrow afternoon. Thor smiled and didn't care too much. Instead, he spoke to everyone. Then he led his men to the noble passage. In this world, the hierarchy is extremely strict. Naturally, commoners and nobles are not on the same path. Nobles have their own special road, which is not only wider, but also does not require inspection. Thor led the troops and followed Dalton slowly into the city of Lucerne. After they entered, the entire city was still filled with dense crowds. Of course, these have nothing to do with Thor. After entering the city, Thor could undoubtedly feel the prosperity of Lucerne city at this moment. Compared with the previous times, the population of the entire Lucerne city was obviously more than 10 times larger, and the streets were full of people. The numb crowd seemed to have more smiles at this moment. On the road, many free people were selling some goods. A famous knight stepped into the city of Lucerne. The number is much higher than before. Thor even saw several nobles wearing medals, and even the unique logo of the Northland province. This means that the other party may not only be a noble, but also a canonized noble in the Northland province. These 2 points have different meanings. Just the medal of nobility only represents that the other party comes from a certain noble. This noble status does not last long. After leaving the family, you will be deprived of your noble status after 3 years. Only by obtaining the title can this noble status be achieved. Continue. Just like Thor at this moment, if he fails to obtain the title of Baron in 3 years, then the title of Dressrosa will be deprived of him, and he will no longer be a nobleman. Unless he obtains the title of Baron one day, he will be able to do so again. He was given the name, Dressrosa. Chapter 46 Lucerne City Auction. In a familiar place, Thor and his group quickly settled down. The sunset gradually fell, and the day gradually came to an end. The daily intelligence system has been updated. The text flashed, and the information appeared again. However, there was no information that surprised him again. But this is also normal. After all, it is just an auction. The entire Lucerne city will hold it once a year. This time, it is enough to have a boy who is friendly to all things in the Thunderstone. As for the others, there is probably nothing else that is too good. The night gradually passed. A new day has arrived. With the dawn, the entire Habsburg Chamber of Commerce is already crowded. A large number of pioneering knights and nobles gathered here. Everyone's expression is full of expectation and excitement. Have you heard about it? What's wrong? Hee, you don't know this, right? The Habsburg Chamber of Commerce released the news a few days ago. There will be 3 bottles of intermediate life potions and 30 bottles of low-level life potions at this auction. Is it true? Of course it's true. How could the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce deceive people? Oh my god, there are actually 3 bottles. Yeah, this is going to be a good show. I'm afraid those noble lords will go crazy. A series of voices mixed together. Thor, Ryan, and Neil Morden were also in the crowd. Listening to the discussions, Thor was not too surprised. Life potions, no matter where they are extremely valuable. Intermediate life potions are enough for countless people to fight for. Even the Frost Moon province is like this, and the Northland province is no exception. What made him a little curious was that no one mentioned the Thunderstone. Of course, despite the doubts, Thor, Ryan, and Neil Morton followed the servant into the auction. Under the guidance of the servant, he went directly to the second floor. There are separate rooms here, and only earls like the Dressrosa family, and families above the earls, or territorial nobles can have them. As for other pioneering lords, they can only stay on the first floor. Knight Thor, these are the items for this auction. You can take a look first to see if you are satisfied. You can call me at any time if you have any instructions. I'm outside the door. The servant spoke respectfully, handed a catalog to Thor, and then slowly retreated. After smiling, Thor also set his eyes on the catalog. The catalog was opened, and 21 items were displayed on it. Thor scanned them one by one, and soon stopped at the 4th and 16th items. The 4th one was an auction of a group of slaves, and it was also the only male slave sale. There were a total of 500 strong serfs, who were said to have mastered superb farming techniques. The starting price was 200 gold coins. The 16th item was the Thunderstone, and the starting price was 1,000 gold coins. Looking at this price, Thor couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. At this moment, he still had about 5,000 gold coins left, so theoretically there shouldn't be too much of a problem. As he breathed a sigh of relief, the auction soon began. A blonde girl quickly came to the stage. Dear gentlemen and ladies, the auction of the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce has officially begun. Now we invite our first item, 10 exquisite female slaves, with a starting price of 3 gold coins, and each bid must not be less than 1 silver coin. A pleasant voice sounded, and then 10 very good-looking female slaves were brought to the high platform. And soon there were voices around. 3 gold coins. 4. 5 gold coins. The auction started soon. Thor did not participate in this, he was not very interested in it. The first item was finally sold at a price of 5 gold coins and 20 silver coins. Then came the second item, which was also a group of female slaves, who were obviously more beautiful and more numerous, but Thor still did not have much interest. Until the 4th item was launched. His expression suddenly became serious. From the strong serfs of Nanu province, they have mastered very good farming techniques. The starting price is 200 gold coins, and each increase in price must not be less than 1 gold coin. The woman's voice sounded. The next moment the whole venue fell silent. 500 serfs, the starting price of 200 gold coins, is undoubtedly extremely expensive. However, superb farming techniques are what every lord needs. I offer 200 gold coins. After a moment of silence, someone soon spoke. I'll offer 220 gold coins. 230. 240. I'll offer 250. 251. 252. The voices kept ringing, but the price got lower and lower. 200 gold coins, this is not a small amount. Even if you have superb farming skills, you can't earn back these 200 gold coins in 1 or 2 years. As the voices gradually became smaller, Ryan's voice came from Thor's room. 300 gold coins. The next moment, the whole auction site suddenly became quiet. Many people shook their heads and sighed, and many people looked at the place where the voice came from, with a twinkle in their eyes. Is there anyone who can offer a higher price? This is an extremely strong slave who has mastered superb farming techniques and is the most important place in the territory. The woman spoke, but no one answered. 300 gold coins, that's the limit. The woman did not continue to ask, but knocked on the wooden board and began to count. 300 gold coins once. 300 gold coins twice. 300 gold coins 3 times. Congratulations to the guests for winning this auction item. Now please welcome our 5th auction item. The voice sounded again. The auction continued. At this moment, the servant also knocked on the door. Thor waved his hand. Ryan quickly stepped forward and handed the remaining gold coins to the servant. The servant respectfully withdrew. The next auction continued. One by one, the items were auctioned off. Among them were various supplies and various equipment. Thor even saw black iron armor and silver armor for sale. Those were the 7th and 11th lots. They were 20 sets of black iron armor of average quality, and 3 sets of silver armor of the same average quality, but the 2 lots were auctioned for 10 gold coins and 1,000 gold coins respectively. That's right, the 3 sets of silver armor of average quality were auctioned for 1,000 gold coins. Even Thor couldn't help but feel jealous. This is no different from robbing money. And that kind of silver armor is worth more than 300 gold coins each, so what about his? It seems a bit too generous not to sell it for 400 gold coins. A new week, asking for monthly tickets, recommendation tickets, everything. The author is going all out, ready to spend $2,000 to impact the new book list. Rush. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 47. There are really idiots in this era. Of course, Thor was jealous, but he finally suppressed his thoughts. Silver armor is different from black iron armor. An apprentice knight wearing silver armor is even enough to compete with ordinary formal knights. He didn't plan to sell it unless it was absolutely necessary. This time he took one piece just for emergency use, not for sale. He didn't lack gold coins at the moment, and there was no need for it. And Thor was envious. The heat of the entire auction was also rising rapidly. Especially when the life potion appeared after the silver armor, the whole auction site could hear the sound of everyone's heavy breathing. Now please invite our 13th lot, low-level life potion, 10 bottles, starting price of 1,000 gold coins, each bid must not be less than 10 gold coins. The woman's voice sounded. The next moment, the whole auction site was completely boiling. 1,500 gold coins. 1,600. 2,000 gold coins. 2,200 gold coins. In just a moment, the price went up from 1,000 gold coins to 2,000 gold coins, and there was no sign of stopping. Hearing those voices, Thor couldn't help but feel shocked. The nobles and pioneer knights in the northern province are really rich. Although low-level life potions are also expensive in the Frostmoon province, the price of a bottle is probably only about 200 gold coins, and at this moment, it has exceeded this price in an instant. Of course, Thor didn't intend to intervene in this. Low-level life potions are indeed very important. But they are not very attractive to him. Unless it is a high-level life potion, it is almost the same. And among the voices, when it came to 3,000 gold coins, it gradually became smaller. In the end, it was sold for 3,110 gold coins. The 14th item was still 10 bottles of low-level life potions, and the transaction price was 2,732 gold coins. The 15th item, also 10 bottles of low-level life potion, was sold at the highest price this time, reaching 3,510 gold coins. And after the 15th item, it was the Thunderstone that Thor wanted. Now let's invite our 16th item, a magical stone from the Aegean Sea Thunder Prison. It contains a strong thunder power and is one of the main materials for making magic crystal cannons and magic guides. The starting price is 1,000 gold coins, and each bid must not be less than 10 gold coins. The woman's voice spoke, and then several strong knights appeared in front of everyone, dragging a huge stone that was half a person's height. On the black stone, there were arcs flashing. The air around seemed to be scorching a little bit at once. Thunderstone. This is actually the Thunderstone. Oh my god, this thing actually appeared in the northern province. What a pity, I don't have an alchemist, otherwise I must take it. Yes, I don't have it either. Exclamations sounded one after another, accompanied by sighs. The Thunderstone has many uses, but most of the problems cannot be used. You must have an alchemist. As pioneer lords, where can they get an alchemist? While they were discussing, Ryan's voice sounded again in the room. 1,200 gold coins. As soon as the words were spoken, the surroundings became quiet. 1,200 gold coins, is there anyone who can offer higher? This is a magical stone from the Aegean Sea Thunder Prison. It contains a strong thunder power and is also one of the main materials for making magic crystal cannons. The woman's voice sounded, but still no one responded. Just when she was about to knock on the wooden board in disappointment, a voice sounded again. 2,000 gold coins. The words started. The moment this voice fell, Thor couldn't help but look at the room in the distance. There was a young man looking at this side with a smile, and even raised the red wine glass in his hand to signal. 2,500 gold coins. Thor did not let Ryan speak again, but calmly quoted a price again. 3,000 gold coins. Your Excellency from Dressrosa, if you are willing, I can continue to add. A gentle voice sounded, with a feeling that made people want to be beaten. 5,000 gold coins. My Dressrosa family is not like some poor people. Even if it is 10,000 gold coins, it doesn't matter. Thor spoke calmly. The whole venue was dead silent. No one spoke again. Everyone on the first floor couldn't help but breathe heavily. Many people on the second floor began to watch the show. Even those nobles who were given titles looked at the two rooms with a smile. Who do you say is a poor guy? 8,000 gold coins. With a somewhat angry voice, the young man in the distance couldn't help but blurt out the words. But halfway through the words, his face changed. And the woman on the high platform couldn't help but smile, and the words rang out quickly. 8,000 gold coins for the first time. 8,000 gold coins for the second time. 8,000 gold coins for the third time. Deal. Congratulations to the guest in room 5 for winning this lot. Now please welcome the 17th lot. The voice sounded from below, but Thor didn't care too much at this moment, and frowned slightly. Even he didn't expect such a change. He recognized the other party's identity at a glance under the decoration of the medal. They belonged to the Earl family of Frost Moon Province. Unlike the Assad family, the other party was the Emerson family, which was considered the mortal enemy of the Dressrosa family. So the moment the other party opened his mouth, Thor actually knew that if he wanted to take it, he would probably pay a heavy price. This was undoubtedly not what he wanted, so he decisively chose to give up. Boy, your things seem to have been robbed. Neil Morden looked at Thor with a smile. Some things are not so easy to take. Thor chuckled and looked at Ryan. Ryan, help me find out later and see which territory this idiot from the Emerson family belongs to. By the way, I also want to know how many people he has. A gentle voice sounded, but there was a cold light spreading in his eyes. Dare to rob his things, you are really impatient to live. At the same time, on the other side, the young man looked a little ugly. He just wanted to raise a price, but he didn't expect that he would be offered 8,000 gold coins. He didn't have 8,000 gold coins now. For this pioneering night, his father, Earl Emerson, only gave him 8,000 gold coins. During this period, the slaves had spent almost 2,000 gold coins on purchasing materials, and he had less than 6,000 gold coins in his hand. Knock knock. The door was knocked. Hearing the knock on the door, the young man suddenly became nervous. Knight Colin. The attendant said with a smile. That, I. The young man spoke subconsciously, but he didn't know how to speak when he reached half of the words. Chapter 48. The Thunderstone is in hand. Knight Corin, are you kidding me? In the room, the servant's face suddenly turned cold, and his eyes were full of hostility. Well, the price of the Thunderstone is not worth 8,000 gold coins, 3,000, at most 3,000 gold coins. Corin Emerson spoke, his expression was still a little guilty. But halfway through the words, he seemed to have regained confidence and spoke with a tough tone. Just as the words fell. Swish. An old man appeared in the room. A terrifying aura suddenly bloomed. Bang. Corin Emerson's face turned pale, even the big knight next to him changed his face, and his figure subconsciously wanted to move, but he couldn't move all of a sudden. Knight Corin, my Habsburg Chamber of Commerce is not a place where you can cause trouble. Not to mention you, even if your father, Earl Emerson, comes, he is not qualified to cause trouble in my Habsburg Chamber of Commerce. Since Knight Corin can't pay the gold coins, please leave. Your deposit has been confiscated. In addition, as a compensation for disrupting this auction, you need to pay 3,000 gold coins. If you have any objections, you can ask Earl Emerson to come. The old man spoke calmly. No objection. Corin Emerson only felt cold sweat oozing out at this moment. The words were spoken with a stutter. Knight Corin, next time, Habsburg Chamber of Commerce will not welcome you again. The old man spoke, and then the voice disappeared. After the old man disappeared, Corin Emerson sat down on the ground, with big beads of sweat oozing out of his forehead, and his face was extremely pale. A big knight beside him was shaking with both hands. A moment later, Colin Emerson slowly got up, looked at the room where Thor was in the distance with anger, and then quickly left the auction. A moment later, the room where Thor was. The door was knocked. The attendant came over with several knights. Looking at the Thunderstone, Thor was stunned for a moment. Respected Knight Thor, I'm really sorry, something unpleasant happened. I wonder if you still need this thunderstone. Just pay 3,000 gold coins. The attendant said with a smile. Of course I need it. Ryan. Thor looked at the room in the distance thoughtfully, then smiled and gestured to Ryan next to him. Ryan quickly stepped forward and paid 3,000 gold coins. I'm really sorry, this is my platinum card of Habsburg Chamber of Commerce. You can enjoy a 20% discount in our Habsburg Chamber of Commerce in the future. The attendant smiled and nodded, and then handed a brand new platinum card to Thor. Okay. Thor smiled and nodded. Soon the attendant left. Boy, you didn't know this would happen, did you? Neil Morton asked in a strange tone. Thor smiled and shook his head, without explaining anything. To be honest, this did surprise him. But he probably guessed what the situation was. 8,000 gold coins were not something that everyone could come up with. Obviously, the idiot from the Emerson family probably couldn't come up with it. In this case, the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce sent it directly. It's just that the things were taken back. This matter is not over. Rob his things. Just kidding. He remembers grudges. His eyes flickered, and his thoughts intertwined. And at this moment, the auction was still going on. It was just that Thor didn't pay much attention to the subsequent things. Even if the last 3 items were 3 bottles of intermediate life potions. They were sold for 2,700 gold coins, 3,100 gold coins, and the last 3,800 gold coins. He didn't care too much. The effect of the intermediate life potion is indeed extremely huge. 1 bottle is enough to give birth to a Great Knight level strongman, and there is even a certain probability that the Great Knight will break through to the Earth Knight, but that has nothing to do with him now. His current Knight cultivation is only that of an apprentice Knight, and even Ryan is still far from the Earth Knight. As for Steve, although he has broken through to the Great Knight, the gap is still not small. Of course, more importantly, he has no money. 10,000 gold coins have gradually bottomed out after spending for several months. Especially this time, the purchase of slaves cost 300 gold coins, and the Thunderstone cost 3,000 gold coins. The original remaining 5,000 gold coins are now only more than 1,000 gold coins. He also needs to buy some supplies to return to the territory. But there are not many gold coins left. With this little gold coin, it is completely overthinking to buy an intermediate life potion. Not to mention the intermediate life potion, he can't even afford the low-level life potion. Let's go, it's time to go back. Thor spoke, and the figure immediately stood up and left the room. Ryan and Neil Morton followed him. The 3 left quickly. Thor left, and the others left the auction house one after another. In a gorgeous house. Colin Emerson's face was extremely ugly. Sir, the situation has been understood. The Thunderstone was indeed handed over to Dressrosa by the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce. A knight spoke respectfully. Hearing the report from his subordinates, Colin Emerson's face became even uglier. Good. Very good. I need to know where that guy's territory is. Colin Emerson's cold voice sounded. He was extremely angry at the moment. As a descendant of the Emerson family, he was favored by his mother's family. When had he ever suffered such a loss? Yes. The figure responded quickly, and soon a knight left. Territory is not a secret. Corin quickly got the relevant information. Main Valley is really not far away. Torre Dressrosa. Corin Emerson said to himself, with a cold light in his eyes. On the other side, Thor also got the information from Ryan. Falling Leaf Territory, 130 miles. 2 Great Knights, 20 Formal Knights, and 100 Apprentice Knights. Hearing the information given by Ryan, Thor's eyebrows were raised. The strength of that idiot was not weak. Not only did he have 2 Great Knights, but he also had 20 Formal Knights and 100 Apprentice Knights. Obviously, this idiot was also valued by the Emerson family. And it was not just ordinary value. Otherwise, they would not have given a Great Knight. You know, although the Emerson family is stronger than the Dressrosa family, it is only a little stronger, not as strong as the Assad family. There are only 3 Earth Knights, and the family history is only 400 or 500 years. A Great Knight is also extremely important. Being able to take out, and 2 of them, this support is not ordinary. Of course, in addition to this strength, what Thor cares most about is the location of the other party's territory. The scope of its territory is only more than 100 miles away from the scope of his Eagle Ridge, and it is only 2 days' journey at most. At this moment, Looking at the location of the fallen leaf territory on the map, his eyes also had a cold light. I will check the typos tomorrow, my sister is getting married. Chapter 49. A boy who is friendly to all things. Thoughts flowed, Thor looked again, and finally suppressed the coldness in his heart, and looked at Ryan again. Have the slaves been delivered? He spoke with a look of expectation. Compared to a fool, he cared more about the boy who had friendship with all things, at this moment. It has been delivered. We also found the boy named Alan. Does the Lord need to see him? Ryan nodded, and then spoke respectfully. Let him in. Thor pondered slightly, and then nodded in agreement. Soon, a pale-faced boy of 15 or 16 was brought in. Master. Alan was a little nervous, and looked at a noble young man in the room and knelt down quickly. Get up. Thor's gentle voice sounded, and his eyes looked at the boy. Alan, do you want to become a free man, or even a knight? Looking at the boy, Thor's soft voice sounded. His words stunned the nervous Alan for a moment, and then his eyes widened instantly, and his sight also looked up at the noble master in front of him at this moment. Are you telling the truth? Master, can I become a freeman? Become a knight? Alan spoke with trembling and disbelief. Of course. But this requires your efforts. Thor smiled and nodded. Master, what do I need to do? Alan was very direct, crawling on the ground, speaking with a trembling voice. Work for me, I will have a group of unicorns to raise. If you can raise them well, I can cancel your contract, and even your parents' contract, and let you become a freeman. If you do better, such as letting the unicorns advance, I can even teach you the knight's breathing method and let the official knight train you. Thor spoke seriously, looking at the boy in front of him. After obtaining the slaves, he already knew everything about the boy. This group of slaves not only has Alan, but also Alan's parents. But no one has discovered that Alan has the talent of affinity with all things. Master. Listening to Thor's words, Alan's body trembled, and his eyes looked at Thor with shock. Thor's words were simple, but Alan knew that the master in front of him might know his secret. That was a secret that even his parents didn't know. He could make creatures advance. This made him unbelievable. He didn't know how the master in front of him knew it. It was also unclear what the master in front of him was going to do. He was getting more and more uneasy. Don't worry, in this vast continent, there are always people favored by the goddess of life. You are not special. You just need to do your job well. I will fulfill the promise I made to you. Thor seemed to see the uneasiness of this person, chuckled, and then spoke again with seriousness. It's my honor to serve you. My master. Hearing Thor's serious words, Alan's uneasy heart calmed down a little, and he quickly crawled on the ground again, speaking with unprecedented respect. Get up. Do well, follow me, and you will have an eagle-like future. Thor smiled and nodded. Yes, my master. Alan quickly climbed up, his eyes full of anticipation. The previous uneasiness and nervousness disappeared at this moment. This secret has been hidden in his heart, and he dared not reveal it at all. He was afraid that something would go wrong and bring him a huge disaster. At this moment, he was finally able to reveal it, and the pressure in his heart suddenly disappeared a lot. For Thor, letting this person work for him wholeheartedly is also what he needs. After all, if the other party still hides this power, it will be extremely detrimental to the development of his territory. Now is the best choice. He can even start preparing to capture unicorns and raise them as soon as he returns. The unicorn leader has the opportunity to be promoted to a third-level magic beast. Although the chance is small, it is different with Alan. Once the unicorn is promoted to a third-level magic beast, it will be a strong man comparable to the human Earth Knight. If he can make a contract at that time, not only his territory, but also his own strength can be greatly improved, and he will truly have the strength to gain a foothold in the entire northern province. As for his promise, it was no joke. In Eagle Ridge. At this moment, the merit system has been gradually improved. As long as Alan can get enough merit, it will not be a big problem. Conquered Alan. Then Thor began to make the final purchases for leaving. At this moment, there is still some time before the wheat matures, so a lot of food is naturally needed. There are also some materials that need to be purchased, such as magic crystal cannons and other materials. These can basically be bought in Lucerne City. It took almost 2 days to buy these things. Until the third day. The group left Lucerne City in a mighty manner. 3 days later, the prosperity of Lucerne City gradually faded. A large number of pioneering knights, lords, and nobles also gradually left Lucerne City. The streets gradually became deserted. Thor and his group set off in a mighty manner. Compared to the speed of coming, the return is undoubtedly much slower. It was almost the 9th day. Everyone returned to Eagle Ridge. After more than 10 days, Eagle Ridge has not changed much. Everything is going on in an orderly manner. After Thor settled the 500 serfs, he began to deal with the government affairs of the past 10 days and sent personnel to transport the Thunderstone to the iron mine. Just kidding, since the main materials have been obtained, the next step is to build a magic crystal cannon. I won't say more. Eagle Ridge and the iron mine must be prepared in order to avoid any accidents. At that time, whether facing orcs, monsters, or other pioneering lords, they will be more confident. After these things were dealt with, Thor's eyes were fixed on the group of unicorns. Intelligence kept appearing, but he didn't get it before. The most important reason was that he had no way to raise them. Monsters are not poultry, and it is extremely difficult to raise them. If you don't have enough ability to raise them rashly, you will inevitably suffer heavy losses. But now that Alan is obtained, all these problems are no longer a problem. As for Colin Emerson, there is no need to rush. He has plenty of time. After he develops for a period of time and his strength is improved again, there is no need for him to exist. After all, the northern province is extremely chaotic, and orc attacks often occur. I believe that no one will pay attention to the loss of a territory. Terdreros's things. It's not so easy to grab. Chapter 50 Capturing the Unicorn. The action started soon. 3 days later, the intelligence showed that the unicorns were out foraging again. At this moment, a large number of knights gathered in the Eagle territory. This time, he even called back Steve from the mine. After all, there was a unicorn leader at the peak of the 2nd level among the unicorns. Without Steve, it would be too difficult to take him down with just a dozen formal knights. Only with Steve could we have enough confidence. Early in the morning, the group was in great force. This time, a total of 1 great knight, 15 formal knights, more than 30 trainee knights, and hundreds of reserve knights were mobilized. It can be said that this was almost the majority of the power in Eagle Ridge at the moment. Under the leadership of Thor, they soon came to the upper reaches of the main river valley, where the unicorns were foraging that day. From a distance, everyone saw 20 or 30 unicorns nibbling on the delicious water grass on the grass. Most unicorns are first-order magic beasts, and only the unicorn leader can reach the second order. They are very fast. The speed of the first-order unicorn is no less than that of the general second-order magic beast, and the speed of the second-order unicorn exceeds that of most third-order magic beasts. In the entire northern province, this is also one of the most common magic beasts. And because of their speed, most of them will be kept in captivity by the minotaurs. They are also one of the magic beasts that the northern nobles like to keep in captivity the most. Rumor has it that Marquis Lehman has a 300-man unicorn knight. Thor had noticed this group of unicorns a long time ago. But magic beasts are something that cannot be raised without special breeders. Thor had no choice but to give up. It was not until he went to Lucerne City this time and obtained Alan, who was friendly with all things, that Thor had a new idea. Ryan, take your men to pour flaming oil around. Steve, the flames are rising, you go first to catch the unicorn leader. If you can take him down, the next step will be much easier. Thor spoke in a low voice and quickly issued orders. How to take down this group of unicorns, Thor has naturally made very detailed arrangements in the past few days. Although the unicorns are weak, they are very fast. The speed of a general first-level unicorn is faster than that of a general second-level magic beast, and the speed of a second-level unicorn is almost comparable to that of a third-level magic beast. With such a speed, let alone that he has only 1 great knight here, even if there are 10 great knights, they may not be able to keep these unicorns. But this is under normal circumstances. The unicorn also has a fatal flaw, or the unicorn without a contract has a fatal flaw, that is, it is afraid of fire. The flames will make the unicorn panic and hesitate. He only needs to cover the entire surrounding area with flames, and this group of unicorns will not be able to escape. With the current strength, it would not be a big problem to capture these dozens of unicorns. Thor quickly ordered, and Ryan began to act quickly. With hundreds of reserve knights, he began to pour the fierce oil. There was still a lot of fierce oil left in the previous pioneering war, and the last time Lyosh Assad came, he brought him a lot of fierce oil. It was just right to use it at this moment. A large amount of fierce oil was poured on the grass. Because there was still a long distance, the group of unicorns did not pay much attention. Time passed slowly. Half an hour passed quickly. Along the unicorn, a huge semi-arc appeared. A large amount of fierce oil poured on it. When seeing Ryan raised his hand in the distance. Do it. Thor spoke in a low voice. The next moment, the flame directly ignited the fierce oil. The fierce oil quickly burned and began to spread to the entire surroundings. On the other side, others also ignited the fierce oil where they were. Boom! The sea of fire swept up, and the huge fire wave extended directly to 3 or 4 meters high. At this moment, the group of unicorns finally found something wrong. Chew! The unicorn leader was in a panic, with magic elements surging under his feet, and his figure was about to escape, but the sea of fire swept, making it extremely uneasy. The other unicorns were also in the same situation at this moment. Thor waved his hand. The formal knights including Steve, as well as the trainee knights, rushed directly towards the group of unicorns. The lassos were also thrown out one by one. Bang bang. The sound rose one after another, and the unicorns were quickly caught by the lasso. And feeling their necks being strangled, the unicorns became more panicked. Especially the unicorn leader, the magic elements under his feet were sweeping, and the wind elements were quickly gathering, and they were about to turn into streams of light, but the flames reflected in his pupils made him stagnate slightly. But at this moment of stagnation, a lasso was also put on its neck. Its body began to struggle hard. Steve's life force burst out and he held the lasso tightly. The horses were running wildly, and life force was bursting everywhere. Soon, several first-level unicorns could not hold on and fell to the ground with a bang. One knight after another quickly stepped forward and tied up the unicorns together. And once it started, the unicorns continued to fall. In the end, only the second-level peak unicorn leader was left. Everyone was watching nervously. Even Thor is the same. A group of unicorns is important. But the unicorn leader is also important. This is a unicorn leader at the peak of the second level. Once the other party can advance to the third level, then his safety in the northern province will no longer be a problem. How can he not be nervous? And the unicorn leader is running wildly with Steve. However, due to the existence of the sea of fire, which is still shrinking, the panic in the eyes of the unicorn leader is getting bigger and bigger, and the movement is gradually slowing down. Finally, after persisting for another half an hour, boom! The unicorn leader also fell to the ground with a bang. Steve, who had been pulling, couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, and didn't care about the overdraft of life force, and quickly stepped forward to tie it up. At this moment, all the unicorns have been captured. Thor was completely relieved. With a wave of his hand, everyone began to quickly put out the flames. Half an hour later, the sea of fire disappeared. Everyone couldn't help but smile. Thor was the same, because at this moment they had captured a total of 23 unicorns. Among them was a unicorn leader who was able to reach the peak of the second level. This was undoubtedly a huge harvest. Especially these unicorns, they could exchange them in the future. If they could ride a unicorn, even thinking about it would make them excited. Talking about the auction, the reason why that guy had so many was because he not only had his father, but also his mother, so he had so many. Chapter 51 Merit System. 23 unicorns, including a peak second-order unicorn. Such a harvest is undoubtedly huge, and Thor couldn't help but smile. Everyone will get merit this time. Each reserve knight will get 1 point, each trainee knight will get 3 points, each official knight will get 10 points, and Steve will get 30 points. Thor spoke. And listening to his words, everyone's expression couldn't help but show a more joyful color. Merit points. At this moment, everyone in the entire Eagle Ridge is familiar with it. In the system created by their own lord, only those with enough merit points can get everything. Slaves, if they want to get rid of their slave status and become free people, they must get 30 points of merit points. Only free people have the qualifications to join the reserve knights. Generally speaking, if you can get 50 points of merit among the free people, you can have the qualifications to join the reserve knights. Once you become a reserve knight, you can use the merit points to exchange some items from the lord. The items that trainee knights and official knights can exchange will be more. For example, the fierce eagle breathing method. For a formal knight, if he can obtain 300 merit points, he can be taught. For another example, silver armor can also be exchanged for 200 merit points as long as he can become a great knight. This system has gradually been perfected in the past few months. With the daily intelligence system in hand, Thor has also collected a lot of good things in the past few months, which can be said to have truly filled a lot of gaps. Let everyone flock to merit points. However, it is not so easy to obtain merit points. Under normal circumstances, a reserve knight only gets 1 point a month, an apprentice knight gets 3 points, and a formal knight only gets 10 points. As for freemen and serfs, there are even fewer. Freemen can only get merit points if they help the lord build, while serfs get 1 point a year, unless there is a war or an unexpected surprise to get extra merit points. If there is no accident, these serfs have to work for 30 years before they can obtain the status of freeman. 1 point for each reserve knight, 3 points for each apprentice knight, and 10 points for each formal knight. This is not a small number. It was almost equal to their monthly merit point income. Every knight had a smile on his face. Okay, go back to the city. Thor waved his hand. The crowd returned to Eagle Ridge with these bound unicorns. Back to the territory. Thor first arranged for Steve to take his men back to the mine to avoid any accidents. Then he brought the bound unicorns to the stable he had prepared. There Alan was already waiting nervously. Master. Seeing Thor coming over, Alan quickly prostrated himself on the ground. Get up. These unicorns will be handed over to you for the time being. I will assign another 10 serfs to you. I will give you 3 merit points every month. If you can make the unicorns breed more, I will give you 10 merit points each time they double. In addition, if you are promoted, you will get 10 merit points for the second level and 50 merit points for the third level. Thor chuckled and spoke meaningfully. Yes, my master. Alan was a little excited. He naturally knew the rules of Eagle Ridge. 3 merits per month were much higher than other serfs, and as long as he could make the unicorns reproduce more in advance, he would be able to get more merits. At that time, not only he, but also his parents would be able to get rid of the status of serfs. Ryan, arrange the personnel here, and send a few knights to guard here to avoid accidents. Thor nodded with satisfaction and called Ryan. Yes. Ryan responded quickly. Then he began to arrange things quickly. After arranging all these things, Thor also began to sort out the entire territory. The matter of Eagle Ridge is really not small. At this time, he needs to deal with it personally. The sky gradually darkened. It seems that I need some affairs officers. Looking at the big and small government affairs in front of him, Thor couldn't help but fall into deep thought. At the beginning, he didn't consider the affairs officers. After all, the early stage was just development, and only in the later stage did he need tedious government affairs. But the development of Changge Ridge is too fast. Even now, there are already many things to deal with. For example, the consumption of food, the statistics of merits, and the allocation of materials, all of which need people to handle. But at this moment, he does not have talents in this area. The 2 most capable subordinates are not talents in this area. His thoughts flowed, and he was thinking about how to solve this problem. Until a moment later, he finally made up his mind. He picked up the quill in the room and began to write. The staff of the affairs officer is not so easy to solve. Although in theory, as long as the price can be paid, the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce will definitely be able to provide it. But obviously he does not need to be the one who is taken advantage of. Dear Father, I am Terdresrosa, your son, blessed by the goddess of life. Your son is doing well in the development of the territory, but he has encountered some minor troubles at the moment. Eagle territory now has 3,000 people, and most of the affairs need to be handled. Your son feels more and more tired, and hopes to get your help, Father. Here you are. The text began to be written quickly. Then Thor called an apprentice knight to take the letter to Lucerne City and mail it through Lucerne City. Although he has become a pioneer knight, Thor generally does not intend to ask for help from his father. But in this case, seeking help from his father is the best choice. This is different from iron ore. He can solve the iron ore. But the affairs officer is not something he can solve. He can indeed buy it from the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce. But are those people really trustworthy? It is no joke if something goes wrong at that time. In comparison, he is more confident about the help from his father. It can also prevent any accidents. Thor finished writing the letter. Mailing completed. It was late at night again. As the bell rang in the early morning, the system soon refreshed the new intelligence system as promised. Daily intelligence updated. 1. 500 miles north of your territory, a group of pigs will pass by, and their leader seems to be about to break through the third level. 2. In the west of your territory, in the territory of Barren Wales, a serf accidentally discovered that the fern root was grafted with the fire spirit tree, which increased the output value of the fire spirit tree. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 52 Magic Crystal Cannon. Time passed slowly, and after returning to the territory, everything fell into stability. The entire Eagle Ridge is entering a stage of rapid development. A large amount of farmland has been reclaimed, and the construction of the entire territory has gradually entered the right track. At the current speed, perhaps the entire Eagle Ridge will completely complete the initial development in a year at most. There is no way. At this moment, Thor not only has the support of his father, Count Engeldrerosa, but also has a daily intelligence system, which is not comparable to others. The night gradually passed, while Thor was busy with the affairs of the territory. A good news came again. The magic crystal cannon was cast. Early morning. In the huge open space. Several knights slowly dragged a huge light blue object similar to the cannon in the previous life. And this is the magic crystal cannon. Even at this moment, Asaki, the leader of the goblins, personally followed behind the magic crystal cannon. Sir, this magic crystal cannon needs to be filled with magic cores, preferably magic cores of level 2 or above, with a range of less than 2 kilometers. Asaki spoke carefully and reported to Thor. Level 2 magic core. Ryan. Thor nodded and waved his hand. Ryan soon trotted over and handed over several level 2 magic cores. During this period, Shangying Ridge has been constantly clearing out monsters, so there are naturally level 2 magic cores. Asaki quickly took the magic core. He started to operate. After a while, a light blue magic array began to light up on the magic crystal cannon, and then the light began to gather rapidly. Boom! A roar sounded, and the next moment the magic crystal cannon directly spit out a terrifying blue light. Boom! Boom boom 1 inch. Dust flew in the distance, and the terrifying blue light covered everything. After a while, the blue light dissipated, and the earth's slope in front disappeared directly. Thor's eyebrows jumped when he saw this scene. Such power is far more powerful than some artillery in the previous life. Even the second-level monsters may be killed directly, and the knights may not be able to dodge. As for the others, they may be strangled instantly. Not bad. Asaki, how many more magic crystal cannons can be made? Thor spoke, looking at Asaki, the goblin, with a question. The Thunderstone is not big, so it is naturally impossible to be endless. Thor just wants to see how many Thunderstones can be made. At most, 4 can be made. Asaki pondered for a moment, and then spoke respectfully. 4. Yes, just send another one over when the time comes. In addition, you have made great contributions this time, you can get 100 merit points, and each additional magic crystal cannon will directly get 50 merit points. Thor nodded, and then spoke. Although 4 is a little less. But it was enough. 2 gates were in the mines, and 2 gates were in Eagle Ridge, which was enough to ensure that both places were absolutely protected. Thank you, sir. Asaki was delighted and thanked him quickly. Merit points were also extremely important to them. Because Thor promised that as long as they could get enough merit points, he could even help them build their own territory, the territory of their goblins. Even thinking about it was exciting. After painting a big pie for Asaki again, Thor immediately ordered Ryan to load this magic crystal cannon well. To deal with the possible changes that may occur next. Changes. That's right, changes. There is no impenetrable wall in this world. He couldn't stop selling black iron armor, which was his economic pillar. And as long as he kept selling, it would inevitably attract the attention of others. Once someone noticed, it would not be too difficult to find out some things. For example, large iron mines, such as he had goblins, or alchemists. As long as there are speculations, it is obvious that some people will not be able to hold back. This is an inevitable result. In the past few decades, the entire Northland province has enthroned more than 50 barons and countless pioneer lords, but now less than one-tenth of them are left. It is undeniable that a large number of pioneer lords and nobles were destroyed by orcs and monsters, but there are definitely not a few annexations between each other. In this disorderly Northland province, as long as the interests are big enough, anything can happen. And an iron mine and an alchemist are enough to make some lords and even nobles unable to hold back. Thor is actually waiting for an opportunity. The construction of trade routes is not that easy. Don't think that Lyosh Assad is almost smooth sailing at the moment. But that just means that there have been no obstacles, not that there are no obstacles. He needs to announce his arrival to the Northland province. He also needs to show his strength. Only in this way can Lyosh Assad's trade route be stabilized. Similarly, his Eagle Ridge is also the time to gain a real foothold. Although it has been established at this moment. But there are countless territories like this every year, and the most important thing is to be able to stabilize them. I wonder who will come first. Maybe we can let that idiot try. Thor couldn't help but think of the idiot from the Emerson family in Lucerne City again when he spoke to himself. Maybe starting with this one is a good choice. The Emerson family has a high enough status and the other party is strong enough to be the best stepping stone for him to swear to come. But soon, Thor shook his head. Give up the idea in his mind. That idiot, he will naturally deal with it. But not now. What he needs to do now is to ensure that everything is foolproof. After all, the Emerson family is a count family like him, and is stronger than the Dressrosa family. Especially during this period of time, he has learned that the reason why this idiot has two great knights is the support of his mother's family, and his mother's family is the real top existence in Frostmoon province. Although the idiot's strength on the surface is just like that, who knows if there is any hidden power. Choosing him in the first step is not the right choice. It is easy to have problems. In the room, Thor's eyes can't help but look at the map. Compared with the previous crude map, it is undoubtedly much more detailed. This is what he had drawn in the past few months. Not only does it have the entire surrounding scene, but it also has information about the pioneering lords and nobles. Around him, or in other words, around the main valley, there are 3 baronies and 7 pioneering lord territories. The 3 baronies are the Lawrence family, the Valmir family, and the Graydon family. Except for the Lawrence family, the other 2 were established by pioneering lords. The Lawrence family comes from an earl family in the South Moon province. Unlike the Emerson family, the Lawrence family is much weaker than the Dressrosa family. There is only one Earth Knight in the family, and he is only an early Earth Knight, which is the weakest among the Earl families. After scanning one by one, Thor's eyes finally fixed on the Lawrence family. Chapter 53 Preparations begin. The Lawrence family was chosen because, on the one hand, they were too close to the mine, only 20 to 30 miles away. As time went by, it was inevitable that they would find something unusual. On the other hand, they were strong enough and weak enough. Yes, strong enough and weak enough. Strong because the Lawrence family was one of the only 30 or so barons left in the entire northern province. Their strength was unquestionable. Since they had been developing for almost 20 years, their status in the entire main valley was slightly higher. As long as they could subdue the Lawrence family, the pioneering lords in the entire main valley would not have any problems. Even the 2 nobles were like this. Weak enough because, as far as he knew, the Lawrence territory currently had only more than 100 apprentice knights, more than 30 formal knights, and 1 great knight. Such strength. It was the best choice no matter how you looked at it. At least it was more suitable than that idiot Emerson. With an idea, Thor no longer hesitated. He quickly called Ryan. He began to give orders. In the following days, a large number of black iron armors began to be transported. Compared with the previous number, it was undoubtedly more. At the end of the month, when Lyosh Assad arrived, he was undoubtedly shocked by the scene in front of him. My friend, you are not kidding. Gudong. Lyosh Assad couldn't help swallowing his saliva, and his breathing became heavy. This time, the trade route opened up a new world for him and also let him see endless business opportunities. Just one trade trip, this time his profit exceeded 500 gold coins. Even if he had to give Thor 70%, he was still very excited. Unexpectedly, this kind of excitement is still spreading, and this time's arrival undoubtedly has a bigger surprise. Thor not only has the 100 black iron armors he promised, but also an extra 100. More importantly, there are 3 silver armors among them. Silver armor, that is silver armor. Thinking about the hot demand for silver armor during this period, Liosh felt his breathing become heavy. 200 sets of black iron armor and 3 sets of silver armor. All of these can be sold to you, but I have a condition, you need to do it. Thor's gentle voice sounded. My friend, you say it. I will definitely do it. Liosh Assad was excited and almost couldn't wait to speak. Just kidding, these 200 sets of black iron armor and 3 sets of silver armor no longer require him to consider anything. And a guess inevitably appeared in Liosh's mind, and then quickly suppressed it. I need it. Thor gestured, and Liosh Assad quickly stepped forward. And Thor slowly told his plan. My friend, you are telling the truth. Listening to Thor's words, Liosh Assad's pupils widened again, looking at Thor with disbelief, and speaking cautiously. What did he hear? Thor actually asked him to tell Baron Lawrence that he owned a large iron mine and even had a group of goblins. He wondered if he was crazy. Or was Thor in front of him crazy? This was simply unimaginable and incomprehensible to him. Of course it's true. Just do what I say. Thor smiled and said. I know. Liosh Assad looked at Thor deeply, and then nodded in agreement. He couldn't help but feel a little excited. He was not a fool, and he also believed that Thor was not a fool, and there must be a reason for doing this. There was even a bold idea that came up in his mind involuntarily. But he was quickly suppressed. He looked at Thor deeply again. For this person, he only felt more mysterious. My friend, business is suspended, and it's time to enjoy a sumptuous lunch. Thor chuckled and said, then pulled Liosh Assad into the banquet. The next day, Liosh Assad left Eagle Ridge with a large amount of supplies and headed for one territory after another. With the experience of the first time, the second arrival of Liosh Assad undoubtedly attracted great attention from the lords. However, this time, Liosh did not sell the silver armor, but only sold the black iron armor. And only sold 100. He kept the others. Until his caravan arrived at the territory of Baron Lawrence. Oh, my friend. Liosh Assad, it's an honor to have you here. When he saw Liosh, Pape Lawrence came forward with a smile and hugged him. Liosh also gave Pape Lawrence a hug. After a while, the two separated. Sir Baron Lawrence, look at what I brought you this time. You will definitely be satisfied. Liosh Assad's excited voice sounded. Oh, could it be the silver armor from the hands of the goblins? Listening to Liosh's words, Pape Lawrence's eyes lit up and he spoke with anticipation. You guessed it right, Lord Pape Lawrence. 3 sets of silver armor from the hands of the goblins. Goddess of life, those lords paid 400 gold coins before, and I kept them all. Because we are friends. Liosh Assad said with exaggeration. Ha 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 ha, it's really a surprise. Indeed, we are friends. Lord Liosh, I have prepared a sumptuous dinner. Pape Lawrence's eyes lit up, and he also smiled when he spoke. During this period, he had set his sights on the territory of a group of minotaurs. He needed a lot of armor and weapons. The purchase in Lauren City was too expensive. He was ready to bite his teeth and go to buy it, but he didn't expect Liosh to come a month ago and bring him 20 sets of black iron armor, which were not only affordable but also of excellent quality. The only pity was that he couldn't buy a piece of silver armor. This made him see hope all of a sudden. He also paused his actions and prepared to see if Liosh could bring such armor in the future. While he was waiting, no one expected that the surprise would come so quickly. In less than a month, the other party came again, and this time he directly gave 200 sets of iron armor and 3 sets of silver armor. Oh my god, that was 3 sets of silver armor. He couldn't hold back. Chapter 54. Preparations begin too. Silver armor, that was silver armor. With 3 silver armors, he was confident that he could win that Minotaur territory. Even if the losses would still be heavy, as long as he could capture the iron territory occupied by the Minotaur, the mine will undoubtedly fall into his hands. During his exploration, it was a medium-sized iron mine. Although it could not produce mithril iron, the iron ore alone was enough to be worth thousands of gold coins. During the banquet, Pappy Lawrence and Liosh Assad were talking. Seeing that Lyosh Assad was already a bit drunk, Pape Lawrence seemed to inadvertently speak with curiosity. My friend, with all due respect, how did you transport the black iron armor and silver armor to the Northland province through the blockade of the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce? I'm afraid it is difficult. It's just incredible. Pape Lawrence sighed curiously. His Excellency Baron Pape Lawrence, this is not shipped from other places. I dare not violate the rules of Marquis Lehman. I purchased this from a friend. He has a group of goblins in his hands and a group of goblins. An iron mine, these are nothing. Lyosh Assad spoke with a drunken mumble. Friend. Large iron mine. Goblin. Pape Lawrence's brows couldn't help but twitch, and his heart couldn't help but be even more shocked. My friend, I don't know who your friend is, His Excellency the Baron. Why haven't I heard of him? Pape Lawrence suppressed the throbbing in his heart and asked again. However, it was discovered that Lyosh fell asleep directly on the table. Lord Lyosh. Lord Lyosh. I called several times in a low voice, but there was no response at all. Pape Lawrence frowned and asked Lyosh to be taken down to rest. Father. Lyosh was taken down, and a young man quickly stepped forward. How are the things I asked you to investigate these days? Pape Lawrence looked at his eldest son, the son he was most proud of, and spoke with an inquiry. Already found out. The first territory that Lyosh Assad visited was the Eagle Ridge of Tordresrosa. The first time he sold black iron armor, he also left the green territory of Eagle Ridge. The black iron armor, the origin may be from the Emerson family, or the Dressrosa family, or the Orvieto territory or the Crow territory. Lawrence spoke respectfully and reported to his father. After obtaining the black iron armor for the first time, Pape Lawrence asked his eldest son to investigate. Emerson, Dressrosa family. He frowned slightly, these two families were not easy to mess with. By the way, how is the exploration of the timid goblin tribe outside our territory going? Didn't there be a fire there some time ago? Haven't you checked the situation yet? Seemingly thinking of something, Pape Lawrence asked again. Father, we have found it, but it seems to have been occupied by Eagle Ridge. It was Eagle Ridge that was attacking that group of cowardly goblins before. Lawrence spoke respectfully and reported to his father. Eagle Ridge is occupied. Wait a minute, you said before that the first territory Lyosh Assad visited was Eagle Ridge in Tordresrosa. When he sold black iron armor for the first time, he also left Eagle Ridge. Green territory. An idea flashed in Pape Lawrence's mind, and he couldn't help but ask. Yes, father. Lawrence was a little confused but nodded quickly. Hearing his son's nod, Pape Lawrence came directly to the map. When he saw the map and the two newly marked red ones, his eyes became brighter and brighter. The cowardly goblin territory, goblins, black iron armor, silver armor. Friend. Lawrence, I have an important mission for you to investigate now. You take a few nights to where the goblins are. I want to know what Eagle Ridge is doing. Pape Lawrence spoke in a low voice. Father, do you doubt that these black iron armors and silver armors come from the Eagle territory? But that Tordresrosa has just become a pioneer knight. Lawrence spoke with a sense of disbelief. Nothing is impossible, Lawrence, the Dressrosa family is not weak, it is much stronger than us. This one may have a lot of support from the Earl of Dressrosa, and don't forget goblins are originally goblins. Some large goblins will capture some goblins to make weapons for them. This is a large goblin tribe, dozens of miles away from Eagle Ridge. What's your reason? Let the heir of Dressrosa spend a lot of money to capture them. They are just a group of cowardly goblins, not fox girls. Even if they are sold as slaves, they are not worth a few gold coins. Quote. That descendant of Dressrosa, I really can't think of any other reason besides this to attack this territory. Pape Lawrence spoke with emotion. His expression became more and more excited. A large iron mine may also contain a group of goblins. As long as he gets these wealth, he even has the hope to get enough capital before the Kingdom War, and then he can even get the title of Viscount through the Kingdom War. Such a result, even thinking about it makes him a little impatient. As for Tordresrosa, he didn't care too much. Just a new pioneer lord. Even if the other party is the heir of the Dressrosa family, even if the other party may be valued by the Count of Dressrosa. But the support given by the pioneer knight is limited after all. And he has been developing in the entire Northland province for more than 20 years, and has been promoted to Baron for more than 15 years. Because he is in the Northland province, his strength is not inferior to that of ordinary inland viscounts. With such strength, if a new pioneer lord tower can't be taken, it's a joke. As for whether it will offend the Dressrosa family. In the entire Northland province, as long as the value is large enough, Marquis Lehman doesn't care too much, let alone the Dressrosa family. I understand. Father, I'll do it right away. Lawrence responded quickly and retreated quickly. Watching his son leave, Pape Lawrence looked at the moonlight outside with anticipation. Goddess of life, is this your favor to me? Muttered to himself, with a look of longing and hope in his expression. Chapter 55 Excited Baron Pape Lawrence. With excitement and expectation, Pape Lawrence asked his eldest son to investigate. On the other side, Lioche Assad, who had sobered up, immediately completed the deal with Baron Pape Lawrence, paying $5 each. A pair of silver armor was sold for 100 gold coins, and a pair of black iron armor was sold for 40 silver coins. At the end of the transaction, Lioche Assad left the territory of Baron Pape Lawrence. But after leaving, he still couldn't help but feel a little worried. Baron Pape Lawrence is not weak. He is considered an extremely powerful baron in the entire main valley. Although he understood what the high probability meant for what Thor asked him to do, he still couldn't help but feel a little worried when he directly chose this one. I hope nothing happens. The whispering voice spoke. Lioche looked behind him at the barony of Pape Lawrence, and then left quickly. And after Lioche Assad left, only 5 days, Lawrence finally got some information. This information soon gathered in Baron Pape Lawrence's room. There aren't any goblins left. In addition, there are more than 100 knights stationed there. Listening to his eldest son's return, Pape Lawrence's pupils shrank and he suddenly stood up. Yes, there are indeed more than 100 knights gathered, and I even felt that there are no less than 10 official knights. Lawrence nodded, with a look of shock in his expression. There were hundreds of knights, and there were 10 official knights. You know, even in the barony of Pape Lawrence, there are only more than 30 official knights so far. At this moment, a new pioneering lord actually has 10 official knights. Ha ha ha, with the blessing of the goddess of life, it seems that my guess is good. I'm afraid there really is a large iron mine here. Lawrence, go and prepare. We will take action in 7 days. Pape Lawrence spoke quickly, and at this moment he made a decision directly. Even if it's not certain at this moment. But just a guess was enough to make him tempted. It was a large iron mine, and it might even have a group of alchemists. As long as he can obtain it, before the Kingdom War, the strength of his entire territory will be greatly improved, and he may have the opportunity to be made a viscount by then. Such a result, even just thinking about it, made him unable to restrain himself. Yes, father. Lawrence was also a little excited, but he quickly agreed. Then, the entire Pape Lawrence territory took action. A famous knight began to be mobilized. At the same time, more information on Eagle Ridge began to be collected. And just as Baron Pape Lawrence was excited, Thor's daily intelligence system also had a flicker as promised. Daily information has been updated. 1. 500 miles north of your territory, a group of pig beasts will pass by, and the leader of the pig beasts seems to be about to break through to the 3rd level. 2. In the west of your territory, in the barony of Wales, a serf accidentally discovered that the fern roots and the fire spirit tree were grafted together, which increased the output value of the fire spirit tree. 3. 7 days later, due to the leakage of information about the large-scale iron mine, Baron Pape Lawrence is ready to attack you, snatch your iron mine, and attack your territory. 4. There was a slight conflict between the Rosen family and the Dellon family in Eagle Ridge. 5. In the upper reaches of the main river valley on the west side of the Eagle Ridge territory, a group of earth dragons will pass by. Open black lens bracket 6, close black lens bracket. The text flashed, and when new information appeared, especially when he saw the piece of information he wanted, Thor couldn't help but have a smile on his face. This was meant to lure the snake out of its hole. As a new lord, he should not launch an attack rashly, otherwise it would arouse the hostility of the surrounding lords. However, Baron Pape Lawrence was too close to the mine, and it was almost a matter of time before he was discovered. Instead of waiting for the other party to covet you at any time, it is better to lure him out early and defeat him in a battle to avoid any surprises. It can also allow him to completely establish a foothold in the entire main valley. After all, there is nothing more convincing than directly defeating a noble lord. A smile appears on the face. And when the morning sun shines, Thor immediately began mobilizing for war. The first is to mobilize more manpower to go to the mine. Although the mine has a lot of manpower at the moment, this still needs to be done just in case. Except for Ren, Thor only left 30 trainee knights and 100 reserve knights in the entire Eagle Ridge in the end, and all the others were taken away by him. As for whether these people can protect the safety of Eagle Ridge, Thor is not worried at all. After all, the most secure people in Eagle Ridge are not these people, but Ren and Neil Morton. As long as Ren defends, there won't be any problems in Eagle Ridge. Not to mention facing other lords, even facing an army of orcs is enough to deal with it. Ren, the rest of Eagle Ridge will be left to you. I hope you won't disappoint me. Thor spoke solemnly, and behind him were hundreds of knights and more than 1,000 slaves. It can be said that it has gathered nearly 90% of the power of Changge Ridge at this moment. Sir, don't worry, as long as I don't die, there will never be any problems in the Eagle territory. Ryan spoke solemnly, his expression full of determination. Okay. I believe you. Thor nodded, patted Ryan on the shoulder, and then pulled the reins, and everyone set off directly. Target mine. The group of people was mighty. On the other side, the territory of Baron Pape Lawrence also began to mobilize quickly. A large number of knights and slaves gathered. The personnel were also mighty. Time passed quickly. The next day, Thor arrived at the mine. Steve had already learned the news and had begun to deploy defenses throughout the mine. With the 2,000 people brought by Thor, everything was arranged quickly. Thor came with his men, and Baron Pape Lawrence, who had been watching the mine, soon got the news. You said that Trdresserasa came with a large number of people. Baron Pape Lawrence's eyes lit up and he spoke with surprise. Yes, more than 2,000 people. Father, has our preparation been leaked? Lawrence nodded, his expression solemn. It shouldn't be. It could be just an accident. Baron Pape Lawrence shook his head, and then seemed to think of Lyosh Assad, but he quickly suppressed it. At this point, it is not the time to think about this. How to take that place is the most important thing. Chapter 56 War Mobilization. Accident. Then father, what should we do next? Lawrence looked at his father and asked with doubts. Continue to gather the troops. Don't worry, this is a good thing for us. After all, we can't be sure whether those alchemists are in the mine or in Eagle Ridge. Now that one has mobilized his power to the front, then as long as we defeat the front, we can't be sure. Able to capture Eagle Ridge quickly. That descendant of Dressrosa seems to be highly valued by the family. As long as we take it this time, or even capture that one, that descendant of Dressrosa should be willing to spend a lot of money, gold coins to buy himself. Baron Pappy Lawrence suppressed the thoughts in his heart and spoke with a smile. Yes, father. Lawrence couldn't help but his eyes lit up when he heard his father's words. The barony of Pape Lawrence quickly assembled. On the 7th day. Then they set off in great force. Target mine location. Baron Pape Lawrence was also almost out of town. There are 100 trainee knights, more than 20 formal knights, 1 grand knight, and 3,000 slaves. The remaining strength in the entire barony is only 10 formal knights and dozens of trainee knights. Once these powers are damaged, the entire baronial territory may not be able to remain stable. However, Baron Pappy Lawrence did not expect that he would suffer losses. Even if you are facing the heirs of Dressrosa. But the other party is just a newly established lord. How strong can it be? At most, he is protected by a great knight. How many formal knights, apprentice knights, and reserve knights can there be? After all, it is impossible for a family to give most of its power to a pioneer knight. The family is too big and there are too many people, but not everyone can get enough assets. In particular, it is necessary to ensure that the next earl who inherits the title has sufficient strength, which is even less. Just like him, the support given to him by the Lawrence family is only 10 formal knights, 50 trainee knights, and 200 reserve knights. Even if the Dressrosa family is stronger than their Lawrence family, his strength is not too exaggerated, he is confident enough. Especially at this moment, he has broken through to the level of a great knight. His eldest son, as well as his knight captain, are already at the peak of official knighthood. With such power, not to mention a new pioneering lord, even an established noble lord, he was not afraid at all. Of course, Baron Pape Lawrence does not know at this moment that Count Dressrosa's support for his ninth son is extremely huge. Coupled with the acquisition of daily intelligence, Thor, the new lord, his strength far exceeds that of ordinary lords, and cannot even be compared with ordinary noble lords. Baron Pape Lawrence's self-confidence was destined to be the wrong choice. Of course no one told him at the moment. Thousands of people marched toward the mine. Soon, relevant information was obtained about the location of the mine. More than 3,000 people. Thor couldn't help but raise his brows slightly when he heard a knight's report. There was a hint of solemnity in his eyes. These were more than 3,000 people, and they were different from the timid goblins before. There are more than 3,000 people, even if most of them are just slaves, their combat power is not weak at all. More importantly, these more than 3,000 people, representing Baron Pape Lawrence, may have turned out in full force. In other words, the other party is likely to mobilize all its strength. That means that among the more than 3,000 people, there are likely to be more than 30 formal knights, more than 100 trainee knights, and there may also be hundreds of reserve knights. Even if there is a gap, the gap is not small. And this kind of power is no longer weak in the entire Northland province, it can even be said to be very strong. It's enough to conquer most of the territory. But obviously, that doesn't include him. The strength gathered in the mine at this moment was even greater than the men and horses brought by Baron Pape Lawrence. The number exceeded 3,000. More importantly, the number of formal knights here has reached 30, the number of trainee knights has reached 100, and the number of reserve knights has also reached 200. With daily information, Thor has obtained a lot of things that can improve his life source power, and as long as he has enough meritorious deeds, he can exchange for those things. After a few months, his strength was no longer what it was before. Such power, exposed, is enough to make most of the noble lords of the Northland province look askance. Not to mention he also has 3 magic crystal cannons. Having this thing is enough to ensure that the mine is foolproof. 3 magic crystal cannons, let alone just one Baron Lord, even if all the lords of the main valley came, he would not worry. The power of the magic crystal cannon is beyond the control of ordinary Baron Lords. Even Viscount Lords are difficult to reach. Only lords above Earl can have it. It was precisely with this confidence that he dared to lure the snake out of its hole. After all, if it doesn't work well, if it attracts enough enemies and there is no way to solve it, it will be really troublesome. Of course, Thor couldn't do something that was completely uncertain. The morning sun shines down. Baron Pape Lawrence's men were approaching quickly, and were less than 20 miles away from the mine. At this moment, the entire mine was in a tense mobilization. A large number of personnel began to gather. The deployment had already been arranged. Sir, everything has been arranged. Steve spoke respectfully, his expression also with a touch of excitement. This was the first real war in his life. It was different from the previous battle with goblins. This was a real battle with noble lords. For him, it was also a test. Okay. Remember, after the Chevaux de Frise blocks them, use the magic crystal cannon directly. After the bombing, go out immediately and make sure to take them all down. Thor spoke in a low voice with a solemn expression. In this battle, in order to avoid too much damage, he naturally prepared to use the magic crystal cannon. But he did not intend to be exposed in this battle. After all, no one knew what would happen next. Therefore, all the people led by Baron Pape Lawrence must be kept, and no one can escape. Only in this way can the information of the magic crystal cannon be guaranteed not to be leaked. Yes, sir. Steve responded respectfully, his eyes also filled with excitement. Who can save me? My chicken gold has fallen by 60%. Can I still get my money back? All my assets. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 57. Baron Pape Lawrence is stunned. At the mine, figures were preparing quickly, and in front of them, Baron Pape Lawrence had already approached the mine with his troops. Father, do you need to send a forward to test it out first? Lawrence looked at the quiet environment around him and asked his father carefully. Can Rosen Baron Pappy Lawrence nodded, and then looked at the knight next to him. My subordinate is here. The knight responded quickly. You take your troops and go investigate first. Baron Pape Lawrence quickly issued the order. Yes. Grown-ups. Backslash. The knight responded quickly, and then the 20 or so knights separated directly and quickly ran into the distance. However, something unexpected happened to them. They had obviously been discovered, but they didn't encounter any enemies along the way. Almost all the Eagle Knights disappeared. Sir, no enemy has been found. But we did find traces of a lot of mining. Rosen quickly returned and reported to Baron Pappy Lawrence with excitement. Ha ha ha. The goddess of life bless you. Baron Pappy Lawrence couldn't help but laugh out loud, and a hint of excitement appeared on his expression. No matter how much speculation there is no real certainty that it will be exciting. If there was only a guess before, then this moment can be completely determined. The traces of mining and everything that happened before indicate that a large iron mine is located here. The Lord of the Eagle territory most likely heard about your arrival, father, and evacuated in advance. Lawrence spoke with the same smile. Ha ha ha, it seems that our neighbor, the descendant of Dressrosa, is not a fool. I'm really grateful to him. I really didn't expect that there would be a large iron mine here. If we take him down, our Lawrence family will have another Viscount. Baron Pappy Lawrence's smile became stronger and his expression became more relaxed. After all, the opponent is the existence of the Dressrosa family. The strength of the pioneer knights of such a large family is not weak. Once they fight, there will inevitably be losses. Although compared to a large iron mine, he can bear some losses. But it would undoubtedly be better if there was no loss. Full speed ahead. Baron Pappy Lawrence drew the knight's sword from his waist and immediately gave the order. Then the large group of people quickly approached. And as they gradually approached, on the hillside, Steve's eyes also showed a hint of excitement. In order to keep this whole group of people, he evacuated all the surrounding guards. At this moment, when this group of troops got close enough, he immediately raised his hand. Next moment, boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the 3 magic crystal cannons suddenly lit up with blue magic arrays. At the next moment, 3 roaring sounds were heard, and 3 terrifying rays of light directly covered the distance. Not far away. Among the people who were gradually approaching, Baron Pappy Lawrence seemed to instinctively sense something. He looked up instantly. And at this moment when he raised his head, his expression changed instantly. This is. The smile on his face first turned into confusion, and then an unprecedented fear spread throughout his body at this moment. Not good. A cry of surprise rang out, and he didn't care about anything else. He threw his body directly at Lawrence, and jumped off the horse with Lawrence. However, he had time to react, but no one else had time to react. Boom. Boom. A terrifying blue light covered everything, and thunder flashed all around. More than 3,000 people were completely covered in it at this moment. A huge roar echoed, and soil, trees, and residual limbs flew everywhere in an instant. The power of the magic crystal cannon is beyond imagination. As an existence above the level of strategic resources in the Tulip Kingdom, it can threaten even the behemoth. When it faces only ordinary slaves, trainee knights, and knights one can imagine. Even if there are only 3 doors. This is enough to be called an absolute killer. Most of the more than 3,000 people were torn apart almost instantly. Covered in thunder, the powerful force destroyed everything. In thunder coverage, terrifying explosions are continuing to spread. On the hillside, Steve directly pulled out the knight's sword. The Lord said that if you kill 1 person, you will get 3 merit points, and if you capture 1 alive, you will get 5 merit points. No one is allowed to let go. The loud words resounded, and the next moment Steve rushed down the hillside with thousands of people. Thousands of meters of distance passed by in an instant. Before the more than 3,000 people brought by Baron Pappy Lawrence had time to react and were still screaming, panic and confusion spread, Steve had already led his troops to kill them. On the ground, Baron Pappy Lawrence and his eldest son Lawrence were all scorched black at this moment. Thunder roared. Even though they reacted immediately and Baron Pape Lawrence even mobilized all his life force defense, the thunder still destroyed his life force shield and left him seriously injured. Lawrence was even worse. His upper body was almost burnt black and his breath was almost cut off. After all, even if he fell down and blocked a lot of thunder, there was a magic crystal cannon that exploded beside them. If they hadn't reacted quickly enough, perhaps these two people would have gone to hell. It was a blessing at this moment. Others, many people's bodies were completely burnt. Boom. Rumble. The horses were galloping. The knights and slaves of the eagle leader rushed down. The rest were quickly surrounded, facing the huge crowd of people and horses. The slaves were the first to put down their weapons and crawled on the ground. Some knights still wanted to resist, but they were quickly suppressed by Steve and his men. In the end, everyone was left behind. No one escaped. The terrifying power of the magic crystal cannon stunned everyone. At the same time, the war ended faster than everyone imagined. From the beginning to the end, it took less than a quarter of an hour. Everything was over. Baron Pape Lawrence came with full confidence, thinking that this was the favor given to him by the goddess of life, but he didn't expect that he would become someone else's prisoner. Such a result, I'm afraid he himself never thought of it. In the mine, Thor got the news quickly. This time he didn't lead the charge. The enemy he faced this time was not the group of cowardly goblins, but the real knights. Even with the bombardment of the magic crystal cannon, accidents are inevitable. He didn't want any accidents to happen to him. So he was waiting in the mine. When Steve came back to report, a hint of joy appeared on his face. Chapter 58 Post-War Review. Ha ha ha, good. Steve, you did a good job this time. Your merit will be increased by 50 points this time. In addition, let someone quickly rescue Baron Pape Lawrence and his son Lawrence, don't let them die. Listening to Steve's report, Thor's expression was delighted. He didn't expect that he would have such a big harvest this time. More than 3,000 people, except for the hundreds of people who were directly killed by the magic crystal cannon, and the dozen knights who fought back and killed in the middle, most of them were captured by him, including not only Baron Pape Lawrence, but also Baron Pape Lawrence's eldest son Lawrence. This is really a big harvest. At the beginning, Thor actually just wanted to establish his authority and solve the possible threat of Baron Pape Lawrence. He never thought about whether he could capture Baron Pape Lawrence. But now he has been captured alive. It's not just a matter of establishing authority, there are more things that can be done. Baron Pape Lawrence is a veteran baron in the northern province, and his wealth and resources are not insignificant. In addition, his eldest son Lawrence was captured. This can at least make a lot of money. It can even make up for his current shortage of various population. How can he not be excited? Yes. Steve responded, and then left quickly. He began to deal with post-war affairs quickly. Although the battle ended quickly, there are many things to deal with. It can even be said that there are a lot of things. After all, let alone other things, how to arrange the more than 2,000 prisoners is a big problem. These are all things he needs to do. And watching Steve leave, Thor began to fall into deep thought. His eyes flickered, thinking about what he should do next. Everything now undoubtedly proves that his previous choice was correct. As he defeated Baron Pape Lawrence and captured him, his initial goal had been achieved. No nobles or pioneering lords would ignore his voice in the entire main valley. If he wanted, Lyosha's caravan could have expanded to the entire vicinity. As long as he used his banner, there would be no problem. His name would be something that no lord around could ignore. However, this was on the premise that the large iron mines were not exposed. If the large iron mines were exposed, it would probably still cause the surrounding lords and nobles to be trembling. After all, the temptation of large iron mines was too great. Even if he defeated Baron Pape Lawrence, he could not completely dispel the greed of all lords. In this way, he undoubtedly had two choices. One was to conceal it temporarily. As long as no one knew, everything would go according to his idea. The second was to directly subdue all the nobles and pioneering lords in the entire main valley. As long as the second point could be achieved, any problem would not be a problem. Two roads, two directions. Two different choices. Each choice has its own advantages and disadvantages. Thor could not help but get tangled up in the dilemma. The first one is indeed the safest, but accidents are inevitable. The second one is very risky, but there is a way. On the one hand, he has Neil Morton, a top powerhouse, and on the other hand, he has now taken down Baron Pape Lawrence. Although the remaining pioneering lords of the main valley are powerful, they are not much stronger than Baron Pape Lawrence when added together. With the help of the magic crystal cannon, he is certain to be able to solve it. Thoughts are constantly flowing. Thor's thoughts are constantly passing by. While he is thinking. On the other side, Baron Pape Lawrence and his eldest son Lawrence are being treated quickly. There are naturally no priests in Thor's territory. However, there are still some basic healing magic scrolls, plus some fruits containing the source of life. Although the injuries of the two were very serious. But they stabilized quickly. Especially Baron Pape Lawrence, as a great knight, he recovered faster. About 2 hours later, his consciousness gradually came back to him. Once he woke up, he quickly understood his situation. Lost. He spoke in a whispering voice, feeling the bad situation in his body and his current situation. His expression was difficult to accept. No one thought that he had been full of hope before, thinking about catching Turdrerosa, but in a blink of an eye he had become the other party's prisoner. Not only him, but also his eldest son Lawrence. How could he accept such a result? It was not until a moment later that he could not help but sit on the ground dejectedly. Because whether he was willing to accept it or not, he did lose. He really became a prisoner. A bitterness appeared on his face. As an old baron, he knew very well what it meant to lose in the northern province. This is not an inland province. There is no order here, and all rules are based on strength. He lost, and if he didn't do it well, his entire territory would be completely destroyed. Especially this time he went out and took away almost 90% of the power of the entire territory. As long as Turdrerosa sends people to attack their territory now, no, he doesn't even need to send people. As long as he gets rid of these people, his territory will be difficult to maintain. Either become a pioneer lord again, or wait for destruction. But he has no hope of becoming a pioneer lord, thinking of his useless and arrogant little son. He regrets it now. Regrets that he attacked the Eagle territory. He also regrets that he brought all his strength, even his eldest son. Lawrence's talent is stronger than his. As long as he can stay, even if he is finished, with his eldest son, his territory will not have too many problems. It's a pity that the goddess of life will not give him the opportunity to regret. Everything has been settled. He can only feel bitter. Perhaps the only thing to be thankful for is that the heir of Dressrosa is still kind and did not choose to kill them. He even rescued them. Well, it can only be called kindness. Apart from that, he didn't know how to describe it. Dusk gradually fell. Night fell quietly. The battlefield was quickly cleared. Knights were detained one by one. A large number of slaves were also directly used as slaves here. Although there was no slave contract, these people had been recognized as his property by Thor. No matter which option was chosen, Baron Pape Lawrence would have to pay a large amount of compensation, and these people could only be considered a small part. But even Thor did not expect that there were only two options, but actually only one. Chapter 59 New Information. Night gradually falls. One day ends. And the daily intelligence system comes again as promised. Daily intelligence updated. 1. 500 miles north of your territory, a group of pigs will pass by, and their leader seems to be about to break through the third level. 2. In the west of your territory, in the territory of Baron Wells, a serf accidentally discovered that the fern root and the fire spirit tree were grafted together, which increased the output value of the fire spirit tree. 3. Because you are going to claim compensation for the territory of Baron Pape Lawrence, 15 days later, Baron Pape Lawrence's second son, Opal Lawrence, feels that the price is too high, and wants to inherit the territory directly, so he decides, falsely accuse, Eagle territory of owning a large iron mine and joining other pioneering lords and nobles to attack your territory in an attempt to prevent your father and elder brother from returning to the territory. 4. A group of moles will pass by the right side of the large iron mine you control, and they brought back a life fruit with some vitality fading from a distant place. 5. A group of earth dragons will pass by the upper reaches of the main river valley on the west side of Eagle Ridge territory. 6. Lines of text appeared, and Thor's pupils suddenly shrank when he saw these words. His sight was instantly fixed on the third piece of information. Thor had never thought that he was still considering how to choose just now. The daily intelligence actually gave him such an answer. The so-called choice does not exist at all. This world also has idiots that even he cannot imagine. Asking for compensation is what he has to do no matter which choice he makes. After all, Catching a baron can take the opportunity to obtain a large amount of compensation, which is even more appropriate than directly destroying a baron's territory. Although in the northern province, strength is everything. Even if he destroyed the Lawrence territory, no one would hold him accountable. But the problem is that if he destroyed the Lawrence family, he might not get more. If he stayed, he could claim more things, and it would be sustainable. Secondly, if he did this, his reputation would probably be affected. This is not a good thing for his future development. Under normal circumstances, his territory would be very happy to give this claim. Because compared to the death of the Lord and a large number of elite knights, just compensating some gold coins is something that everyone is willing to accept, even if the price is high enough. After all, the strong are the most important for a lord. But this is only under normal circumstances. In the previous life, there was a fool like who or she, and this world seems to have the same. There are really people who ignore their father and elder brother, and ignore so many strong people. At this moment, even Thor was speechless, and didn't even know how to describe it. This is so stupid that there is no hope. It seems that we need to do it in one step next. After being speechless, Thor couldn't help but sigh. No longer considering the first option, but began to think about the second option. Since there was no choice, he was also very decisive. As for the lords and nobles around him, he was not too worried. The strongest territory around the entire main valley is Lawrence territory. Other territories, even if there are still a few nobles and powerful pioneering lords, are just average in strength. He can still deal with them together. At most, he can move the remaining 2 magic crystal cannons. With 5 magic crystal cannons. As long as there is no large-scale orc tribe attack, there will be no big problem. Thoughts flow. The night gradually passed. The morning sun fell. Thor first found the group of moles and obtained the life fruit with lost vitality. Then he found Steve. My lord. Steve spoke respectfully. Send someone to temporarily transport the 2 magic crystal cannons of the Eagle territory. Also send a letter to the Lawrence territory, tell them about the defeat, and ask them to pay compensation. Pape Lawrence will pay 3,000 gold coins, Lawrence will pay 1,000 gold coins, each official knight will pay 500 gold coins, each trainee knight will pay 100 gold coins, and they will also need to pay our 3,000 serfs and 2,000 gold coins for war compensation. Thor spoke slowly, but the content he said made Steve's eyebrows jump. The 2 magic crystal cannons are fine, but the key problem is that the so-called claim of the Lord is a complete plan to kill the hostage. This value can be said to be crazy. It is probably not less than tens of thousands of gold coins in total. It would be a miracle if the Lawrence territory could afford the claim. What? Is there a problem? Thor smiled faintly and looked at the hesitant Steve. Sir, this price, the Lawrence family may not be able to afford it. Steve opened his mouth and couldn't help but speak, but he didn't say anything. But the words were not finished, but the meaning was very clear. Just do what I say. It's none of your business. Thor waved his hand, indicating that he didn't need to care. Yes. Steve bowed and retreated with a face full of questions. Watching Steve leave, Thor couldn't help but smile. His claim was indeed made because the other party didn't pay. Since we already know from the daily intelligence that Lawrence is not going to give the territory, it is better to set a higher price. On the one hand, it can further stimulate the other party's ideas. Go to unite with other lords. On the other hand, if he can deal with other lords at that time, then his gains will be greater. This is Thor's plan and preparation. I have to go back. I'm afraid I need to ask that person. Thor muttered to himself, and then his thoughts were withdrawn. If the 2 magic crystal cannons are transported out and a large amount of power is mobilized to the mine, then the Eagle territory will be empty. Thor didn't know how many people that idiot would contact. In order to be on the safe side, he still needs to discuss with Neil Morton. At least to ensure that there is no risk. Although he had this plan before. But more importantly, he was confident. After all, he had 2 magic crystal cannons. Now it is completely different. After his thoughts flowed, Thor quickly packed up and led his men back to the Eagle territory. One day later, his figure arrived at the Eagle territory. At the same time, Steve's letter of claim was also delivered to the Lawrence territory. When the news of Baron Pape Lawrence's defeat and capture came back, the entire Lawrence territory suddenly exploded. Panic and fear inevitably spread. The atmosphere of uneasiness continued to spread. Renee Black, the wife of Baron Pape Lawrence, was undoubtedly even more panicked. Chapter 60 Idiots are everywhere. Lawrence territory. Renee Black, the wife of Baron Pape Lawrence, was really panicking at this moment. Her husband, Baron Pape Lawrence, led a large number of elites from the territory to attack Eagle territory, but never came back. She had nothing to worry about. After all, the strength of their Lawrence territory was the strongest in the entire main valley, and she didn't think there would be any accidents. However, the next morning, the letter from Eagle territory made him completely unable to calm down. Fuck, my god, this is impossible. Renee Black said with some disbelief. Ms. Renee Black, nothing is impossible. Baron Pape Lawrence has been captured by the adults. Please collect the ransom as soon as possible, otherwise the adults can't guarantee the safety of the Baron. The knight smiled lightly and then turned and left. But the knight left, and the letter sent by Eagle territory caused an uproar. The entire Lawrence territory was restless. In the castle. Crazy. They are simply crazy. Why don't you go and rob them? This is impossible. In a panic, Renee Black quickly looked at the letter. However, when the content appeared, Renee Black couldn't help but widen her eyes, and anger inevitably spread out. What did she see? Pape Lawrence wanted 3,000 gold coins, Lawrence 1,000 gold coins, 500 gold coins for each official knight, 100 gold coins for each trainee knight, and 3,000 serfs and 2,000 gold coins for war compensation. This is simply the goddess of life playing a joke on her. If you count it, the entire Lawrence castle will probably be sold to the Eagle territory. Mother. This is indeed impossible. This is too much, the Eagle territory has no intention of releasing father. Opal Lawrence next to him also looked at the letter, but after reading it, his eyes lit up all of a sudden. It's not anger. But seeing an opportunity. That's right, it's an opportunity. As the second son of the Baron, he had no right to inherit the territory, especially under the premise that his knight talent was far inferior to his elder brother. Even if the current Baroness was his mother, not Lawrence's mother, the result was the same. Originally, he had no way. But at this moment, he seemed to see hope. As long as his father and elder brother could not come back, then the inheritance of the territory seemed to be only his. This time, he was really moved. This. Renee Black heard her son's words and became more and more flustered. She was not from a noble family, but a merchant's daughter. Because Pape Lawrence's first wife died unexpectedly, she had the opportunity to take the throne. Faced with this situation, she had no idea what to do. Mother, since they have no sincerity, why should we pay the ransom? It's probably worth tens of thousands of gold coins. Opal Lawrence pretended to be indignant. But your father. Renee Black said subconsciously. Father may not be alive. And mother, if father and elder brother come back, I will not be able to inherit the territory. Maybe this is our chance. Opal Lawrence's eyes flickered, he pursed his lips, and spoke slowly. You. Renee Black was startled, and looked at her son with shock. After being shocked, Renee Black's heart began to beat violently. As her son said, this really seemed to be an opportunity. But the excitement only lasted for a moment and was soon suppressed. No, without your father, a great knight, the territory will soon fall into turmoil, and your father has taken away a large number of knights. Relying on the current strength of the territory, it cannot be defended, and it may even be annexed by other Lawrence families. Renee Black was not overwhelmed by excitement, he soon discovered the problem. That is strength. They are just the descendants of merchants, they are not strong enough, and they can't defend it. Mother, you seem to have forgotten that the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce can provide protection. It only takes 1,000 gold coins to hire a great knight to guard for a year. Now, instead of giving so many gold coins to the Eagle territory, it is better to give them to the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce. At least the Lord will not be the eldest brother. Oper spoke with twinkling eyes. At this moment, the more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. 1,000 gold coins can hire a great knight for a year. He only needs to take out 3,000 gold coins to hire for 3 years, plus his own training. With the power of Lawrence territory, it will be able to restore its original strength in about 3 years. And he always felt that his strength could not keep up, that was because his father gave all the resources to his eldest brother. If he could get a lot of resources, he might be able to quickly break through to the official knight, or even break through to the great knight, then the entire territory would not have any problems. Even at this moment, he even had a dangerous idea in his mind. Hearing her son's words, Renee Black's eyes lit up. She has always been worried about the issue of inheritance of the territory. Once Lawrence inherits the title, their fate can be imagined. The best outcome is to give them a sum of gold coins and kick them out. She was used to being a baroness, so she didn't want to face this kind of situation. This time seemed to be an opportunity. Mother, in order to avoid accidents, we can say that Eagle territory has a large mineral vein. What about the iron ore? As long as we spread the news and let Eagle territory know that we spread it, then there will be no accidents. Renee Black was excited, and Opal spoke again. The words he said made Renee Black's scalp numb, and his figure stood up all of a sudden. Opal, you. Renee Black looked at his son with disbelief. Mother, this is our only chance. Once the eldest brother comes back, the territory will no longer belong to us. Opal spoke seriously, but the words he said were extremely cold. After being shocked, Renee Black fell silent. After a moment. Okay. Renee Black took a deep breath and made up his mind. Even though she knew that such a decision would inevitably make her husband never come back, she still chose to agree for the sake of her son and the entire Lawrence territory. With the consent of his mother, Opal took action. He first needed to go to Lawrence City to hire a great knight and some formal knights from the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce. Then it was time to take action. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.